Chapter 130. Wearing iron shoes could break what you're searching for. 1. On the horse carriage, Apothecary Lung continuously questioned Su Luo and tried to get more information about the primeval pill recipe. But Su Luo was always evasive about that subject. How could Apothecary Lung, who spent years refining medicine, be her opponent? His queries could only end in defeat. The carriage's speed was very fast. After about an hour, they had returned to Nangong Liuyun's manor. When Ling Feng saw that Su Luo actually invited Apothecary Lung over, his eyes flashed with surprise. But he quickly recovered. He grabbed and then pulled Apothecary Lung over to where Nangong Liyun was, anxiously saying, "Quickly take a look at our master." Apothecary Lung was just about to blow up in anger, but Su Luo merely shook that thin, yellow piece of paper. Afterwards his eyes began to shine, and he instantly suppressed his darkening mood, holding their breath and attentively watching him take Nangong Liyun's pulse. After about half an hour, Apothecary Lung finally opened his eyes. From the very beginning, Su Luo was focused on the apothecary's face, so as not to miss a single reaction or expression. When she saw him opening his eyes, Su Luo stepped forward a few steps. "Apothecary Lung, how is it? Is it serious?" Apothecary Lung's eyebrows knit together. From his face emerged a dignified expression. He waited a long time before glancing in Su Luo's eyes. His 5 visceras and 6 internal organs all shifted. The visceras are bleeding profusely. There are disorders throughout the whole body, and the meridians asphyxiated, unable to be moved, wanting to go up but unable to come back down, wanting to go down yet not being able to. "So you tell me, don't you think it's serious?" To think it was this serious. Su Luo's facial expression remained the same, but in her heart was a hint of helplessness. Apothecary Lung and Ling Feng's words from before corroborated each other seamlessly. Before, the words Ling Feng spoke were all true. Nangong Liyun for her really had forcefully stopped the recuperating process, and even suppressed promotion to next rank, making an already serious set of injuries on his body even worse. But on top of that, she had even given him such a harsh blow on his weak body, which made it worse and resulted in his current situation. Su Luo clenched her fist tightly, while at the same time looking dignified and not blinking for an instant. She stared at Apothecary Lung. "Tell me, how can he be cured?" Apothecary Lung thought for a long time, before saying slowly, "Curing him will be difficult, very difficult." "Tell me," Su Luo and Ling Feng said in unison. Only, to make Apothecary Lung say it is very difficult these words meant. Su Luo and Ling Feng were both very nervous. Exactly how difficult would it reach? Apothecary Lung rubbed his smooth chin, pondering for a while, before responding. "We need crystal stones, a lot of green-ranked crystal stones. Of course, if it was higher than green-ranked it would be even better. Within 3 days, can you guys do it? Green-ranked crystal stone? Or higher-ranked?" Su Luo still had not fully processed those words, before Ling Feng shouted out loud in surprise. "Yes, they must be at least green-ranked crystal rocks. Otherwise it will be difficult to unblock the blood vessels. And if not, then even cured, His Highness Prince Jean will remain at 6th rank. Even many years later, no matter how hard he tries, his cultivation won't advance an inch." Apothecary Lung's expression was frosty, stressing each syllable. When he was feeling the person's pulse, he found that his strength was at 6th rank, and after a little thought, it was obvious. Such a young person in the entire empire that had entered the 6th rank, and was almost at the 7th rank, could only be His Highness Prince Jean. After discovering this fact, no matter how calm Apothecary Lung appeared, he could not help but be a little nervous. His Highness Prince Jean was the empire's hope. If he doesn't give treated, then it ends there. If his treatment leads to an incomplete recovery, then there would be big trouble. Ling Feng's eyebrows knitted together. He anxiously paced around in the room. "Where can we find some green-ranked crystal stone? Also, we even need a lot of it." Chapter 131. Wearing iron shoes could break what you're searching for, too. It really is difficult. Apothecary Lung frowned. Su Luo was completely mystified, and was in a perplexed state. She quietly walked to the side and asked Steward Su, "What are green-ranked crystal stones?" There were actually people who had never heard of green-ranked crystal stones. Steward Su was stunned, and with an astonished expression, looked at Su Luo. What's wrong? Is not knowing so strange? Steward Su first nodded his head, then shook his head. Afterwards, he quietly coughed before answering Su Luo. As everyone knows, if you want to quickly promote your cultivation, there are two ways. One way is to focus and concentrate on practicing. The other way is to absorb the spirit force from a crystal stone. Also, people who follow the first path will definitely not have access to crystal stones, so they can only depend on themselves and practice. It can be said that crystal stones are extremely important to people who practice cultivation. There was actually such a thing. Su Luo frowned without a word. No wonder before, she was the rumored good-for-nothing. So naturally she would know nothing about practicing cultivation. Steward Su continued to say, it's said that crystal stones are also divided into 7 types based on their characteristics. It follows closely with the spirit strength system, and is divided into red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue and purple, altogether 7 types. However, there are very few crystal stones on this continent. Moreover, the most abundant are the 3 types red, orange and yellow. There are very few green-ranked crystal stones. As for the 3 types after that, cyan, blue and purple, they are even rarer. Therefore, wanting to find green-ranked crystal stones within such a short period of time, how could it not be an extremely difficult matter? With the imperial family's strength, there ought to be some in the great inner storehouse for materials. However, this place is a great distance away from the imperial capital. Even if you were to ride on the dragon-scaled horse, there still won't be enough time. Steward Su was so anxious that he was pacing around in circles in the room. Su Luo was also worried and anxious. What crystal stone? In the end, what kind of stuff was it? Let alone asking her to search, she had never even seen it before. Ling Feng suddenly stood up and directly ran out, leaving behind only one sentence. I'll go search. Ling Feng took Prince Jin's writ plate, 1, to the garrison within the city. He turned the warehouse there upside down, almost making the provincial governor suffer an anxiety attack. Even then, he was only able to collect 3 green-ranked crystal stones. There were a lot of red, orange and yellow crystal stones, but these were only treasures to ordinary people. Whereas to Nangong Luyan, as a 6th-ranked martial artist, these crystal stones were already useless. Ling Feng immediately ran to the mercenary union and issued a task to collect green-ranked crystal stones. 1 green-ranked crystal stone could be exchanged for 100,000 gold coins. This exchange ratio was extremely high. Therefore, the entire city became lively from excitement. Countless people began to transmit this information. Finally, Ling Feng escorted a carriage of stones and returned to the manor. When Su Luo came out, she coincidentally saw Ling Feng, carrying a basket full of rocks that weighed 2,000 kilograms, hurriedly walking into the courtyard. Quickly, everyone get a basket of source stones. If anyone can cut out a green-ranked crystal stone, the reward is 500 kilograms of gold. Ling Feng heroically said. Once the order was spoken, suddenly, all the subordinates within the manor were filled with passion. People, because of wealth, could receive heaven's punishment and get wiped out from the earth. What's more, this wealth could be gained in an upright and proper manner. These are the stones. When Su Luo's gaze landed on these stones, she couldn't help but be somewhat distracted. Why did she feel that these dense mass of stones were somehow familiar looking, as if she had seen it before in some place? These are the source stones for crystal stones. Ling Feng lowered his voice to explain. Source stones are very strange. No matter how strong the martial artist, they still cannot see into the stone at a glance. Within these source stones, some only contain regular rocks, while other, once cut, would reveal red, orange, even yellow and green crystal stones. Without cutting into the source stones, nobody can tell. Su Luo fixed her gaze on these dense mass of stones, and a light flashed in her mind. These are the source stones for the crystal stones. 1. A writ plate from the royal family is usually a gold, handheld plate that has words carved on it. People holding one from the royal family basically identifies them and their power. The plate given by the emperor himself represents his words, so everyone would kneel and obey when they see it. Chapter 132. Wearing iron shoes could break what you're searching for. 3. Yes. All of it came from the nearby specific crystal stone mining sites, and I picked up only the ones with most potential. But to cut out a green-ranked crystal stone is still very hard. Ling Feng's forehead was wrinkled since the beginning. His entire attention was focused on the scene of a crowd of people cutting stone. His gaze was like an eagle's, unblinkingly watching. However, according to Ling Feng and Apothecary Lung's words, green-ranked crystal stones were really rare. Even if over 10,000 orange crystal stones were cut out, you still may not find a single green-colored crystal stone. Although this bunch of source stones were all of the best quality with the highest potential, however, after an afternoon of cutting, a total of 500 red-colored crystal stones, 100 orange-colored crystal stones, and 5 yellow crystal stones were cut out. As for green-ranked crystal stones, not even a shadow of them was seen. After seeing the outcome, Ling Feng's expression was very ugly. Go bring back another batch of stones. I don't believe that I can't even cut out a single green-colored crystal stone. Ling Feng loudly commanded. He was so anxious that his entire palm was sweating. His heart was clearly worried. He was full of fear and dread. Su Luo asked Apothecary Lung. In the end, how many green-colored crystal stones will be enough? Shouldn't you at least give a range, after all? Apothecary Lung thought about it and said. The more the better, however. At the very least 50 green-colored crystal stones. 50? Su Luo was depressed. Ling Feng had flipped the entire city upside down and had found 3 green-colored crystal stones. Apothecary Lung opened his mouth and immediately asked for 50. Wasn't the difficulty too extreme? Apothecary Lung answered. In fact, it doesn't necessarily require green-colored crystal stones. If there were cyan-colored crystal stones, then 10 is enough. 4 blue-colored crystal stones, only 2 will be enough. If there is a purple-colored crystal stone, not to mention 1, just a little piece will contain enough spirit strength. Su Luo became despondent. Green-colored crystal stones were already hard to come by, not to mention the rarity of finding cyan, blue and purple-colored crystal stones on the entire continent. This was impossible. She saw Ling Feng running over to cut stones, and Su Luo's mind lit up. How could she have forgotten? There were more than 10 dark-colored massive source stones in her space. At that time in Elder Zihua's cave, she had nearly abandoned them, but she swept them up when she found that they could expand her space. Su Luo found a secluded place, and with a thought, her spirit entered her space. The space was a little crowded, but in that crowded space, what did Su Luo see? She unexpectedly saw little Meng Meng, her contracted spirit pet, which was originally a dragon, but had his body changed into a puppy. He used a human-like manner to sit on the floor with legs crossed, in front of a pile of source stones the size of a small mountain. But the him right now was unexpectedly cupping a source stone with both hands. Su Luo thought her eyes were seeing things. So she rubbed her eyes. But the scene in front of her eyes did not change. Her cute and adorable to the point of making people burst little spirit pet, like peeling a banana, was from top to bottom tearing strips off from the source stone. Yes, even if it was a master like Ling Feng, he would still need specialized tools to cut the source stone, because source stones were unusually hard. Even a master would have a difficult time destroying the stone. However, her adorable little Meng Meng could peel it like a banana or an orange, petal by petal, pulling it apart. Afterwards, he would stuff the peeled crystal stone into his own mouth, chewing with crunch sounds as if it was very delicious. Wait. What did she just see? Su Luo only felt a flash of green pass by her eyes. This familiar green color was something she had only recently seen. This was definitely not real. Ling Feng had turned the city upside down looking for green-colored crystal stones. Yet the result was that her little spirit pet would swallow the green-colored crystal stone, as if they were snacks. Unexpectedly, how could he just casually peel out a green-colored crystal stone? Su Luo suddenly had the feeling that she was facing the wind, causing her cheeks to stream with tears. This luck stuff was too fucking important. This must be the characteristics of a person. Su Luo rushed over. With one hand, she picked up her little spirit pet. Her smile was sinister and sly. Looting, huh? If you value your life, Immediately spit out the stuff you just swallowed. The adorable little dragon, with his wet, wretched large eyes, looked at Su Luo. His two paws desperately covered his little mouth. No matter what, he wouldn't relent and open his mouth. Chapter 133. To have come about with no effort. 1. Looking at those eyes, even Su Luo's heart softened. Okay, that piece can just be your payment. But for the rest of these, you are not allowed to eat them on the sly. Su Luo looked down at the scattered pile of source stone waste products, and her heart felt a dull ache of pain. She directly knocked on the adorable little dragon's head. You spendthrift! Those weren't melon seeds or peas, but green rank crystal stones, okay? Ling Feng had announced that one could be traded for 100,000 gold coins. The adorable little dragon was completely oblivious as to why his master had a painful expression as he chewed on his gourmet food with crunch sounds. He was bouncing up and down, looking very cheerful. Su Luo picked him up and placed him into her arms. Then, she made him sit cross-legged in front of her. Looking at the pile of stones in front of her, Su Luo wanted to try her luck. Therefore, she selected carefully and chose a stone to give to the adorable little dragon. This baby's manual labor skills was much faster than the tools used for cutting. Not utilizing free labor was such a waste of resources. And it was also a shame. The adorable little dragon acted as free labor on his own initiative. He received that piece of melon-sized stone, and suddenly he turned his head, using those pair of large eyes, which were clear as water, to look at Su Luo. It was as if he was a bit confused on why Su Luo would choose this piece of stone. Su Luo rubbed his forehead, urging him. This piece will certainly be able to produce a green-ranked crystal stone. Okay, stop dawdling, just like how you peel oranges, open it, it will be fine. Okay. The adorable little dragon was still a little puzzled, but with his master's command, he firmly carried out the order. Su Luo sucked in a breath, her eyes wide and unblinking as she carefully stared at the piece of source stone in the adorable little dragon's hand. She watched that slightly brown source stone being peeled apart piece by piece, slowly revealing the crystal stone within. Yellow? Su Luo couldn't believe it. She snatched it with one hand and studied it carefully, confirming that it really was a yellow-ranked crystal stone. Although yellow-ranked was pretty good, it was useless to Nangong Luyan. Su Luo depressingly threw the yellow-colored crystal stone aside. After looking around for quite a while, she picked a striped grayish-colored source stone. She solemnly handed it over to the adorable little dragon. Come, good boy, put a little bit of effort into your little paws. Peel out a green-ranked crystal stone. Su Luo coaxed little Meng Meng. Whether or not a green one would come out would all depend on those cute little paws. Poor little Meng Meng was unconsciously weighed down with a heavy burden. Little Meng Meng accepted the source stone, suddenly lifting that pair of big limpid eyes. The depth of his eyes, which were clear as waves with Su Luo's inverted image in them. He bafflingly looked at the source stone, and then looked back again at Su Luo. What is this little kid confused about? Hurry up and peel it. Su Luo patted his head. The adorable little dragon was looking at Su Luo as if she was an idiot. He lowered his head and resolutely began to peel the piece of source stone Su Luo had picked. After it was peeled, with a single look at that color, Su Luo's face immediately fell. Her luck was really bad. It was even worse than the first time. At least the first time she had gotten a yellow-colored crystal stone. This time it wasn't even yellow, but orange. Su Luo rubbed her temples. She was a bit annoyed. But finally, she managed to cheer up. I don't believe my luck can continue to get worse and worse. Come peel this one. This time, Su Luo did not carefully pick and choose. She directly picked up the nearest source stone. That was about as big as a watermelon. She energetically handed it over to the adorable little dragon. Since it depended on luck, then there was no point in picking carefully. If there was luck, you could even find a good one with closed eyes. If there was no luck, even if you had a piece of purple-colored crystal stone in your hand, it would be swindled by somebody else. Chapter 134. To have come about with no effort. 2. This time the adorable little dragon still used that pair of dark-colored eyes to look at Su Luo. Only this time, the sympathy in his eyes was even more obvious, to the point that even Su Luo could almost see it. The result, when it was peeled, she checked. Su Luo nearly knelt down, almost giving up. What kind of shitty luck did she have today? Her luck was simply disastrous to possess. The results had gotten worse each time. The first time wasn't bad, a yellow-colored crystal stone came out. The second time, she had peeled out an orange-colored crystal stone, and the third time, it turned out to be a red-colored crystal stone. It was such a big piece of red-colored crystal stone too. She really wanted to cry but lacked the tears. Su Luo thought, if she picked another one, would it end up with nothing inside of it? Su Luo's hand supported her forehead. She sat there looking depressed. She dispirited looked at her pair of hands that had bad luck. The adorable little dragon looked confusedly at his dispirited master. Crooked his head pondered for a bit. He had a feeling that he couldn't help. Consequently, he sat on top of the pile of source stone to obediently play by peeling more stones. That lovable appearance was like a little child playing in must. Just looking at the scene would make anybody's heart soften. Su Luo was in the midst of being depressed, when suddenly, a piece of green thing appeared in front of her. She subconsciously lifted her eyes and looked up, and was surprised to see a piece of green-colored crystal stone. Moreover, it even turned out to be as big as a fist in size. Su Luo looked blankly at that piece of green-colored crystal stone. Then following the stone she looked up. She saw a pair of furry little paws, and further up was the adorable little dragon's cute little face. Okay, Su Luo felt jealous. Why was it that when she had spent so long picking stones, she couldn't even get a single green-colored crystal stone? However, the adorable little dragon soon after would grab one? And how come it was even such a big piece? It really made people feel jealous, don't you think so? But just being able to find it was great. Su Luo excitedly rubbed the adorable little dragon's head. Her mood immediately lifted like the clear skies after the rain. Quick, help master find a few more pieces of these. Su Luo felt it her luck was terrible, so she would just not use her own hands. She let the adorable little dragon to directly pick and choose. Making her happy, but also a little depressed, was that the adorable little dragon's luck was simply too good. Good luck couldn't even be used to describe it. He was simply bursting with luck. The first piece, when peeled out, was a green-colored crystal stone. The second piece, when peeled out, was a green-colored crystal stone. The third piece, when peeled out, was another green-colored crystal stone. This, what kind of luck was this? Su Luo was excited that her cheeks were streaming with tears, both eyes were red. Suddenly, Su Luo's mind flashed with an idea. She realized that previously she had missed something. Previously, when the adorable little dragon was looking at her with his clear watery eyes, they were full of sympathy. He was full of sympathy towards her. What could this mean? This meant that even when he picked up the source stone, he had already known if there was a crystal stone inside or not. He could also tell what color the crystal stone inside was, thus he would use that perplexed and sympathetic eyes to look at Su Luo. To have been pitted by this little guy, Su Luo felt like she wanted to cry again. Whether or not this was true, there needed to be proof. However, to prove it was actually really simple. Su Luo smilingly placed the adorable little dragon in front of the pile of source stones, coaxing him, saying, "Good boy, help master look for a cyan-colored crystal stones, okay?" Cyan-colored? The adorable little dragon wrinkled his nose a bit from the difficulty of it, but he still strictly followed the orders of his owner. His pair of petite little paws seemed to contain strength to lift 500 kilograms. Piece by piece he threw aside the source stones on top, digging straight to the bottom of the pile. Finally, he accurately grabbed a small fist-sized source stone and handed it to Su Luo. Inside this is a cyan-colored crystal stone. Su Luo half believed and half doubtful, while pondering about this piece of source stone. Chapter 135. To have come about with no effort. 3. The adorable little dragon's articulation wasn't too clear, but he nodded firmly. He still couldn't speak, so he could only use this way to communicate. Fine, then let's peel it to find out. Su Luo handed the source stone back to him. The adorable little dragon obediently took it. He quickly stripped down the source stone. In a showing-off manner, he handed the crystal stone inside to Su Luo. He had a cute look that was clearly seeking praise. His little tail was cocked up high, continuously running around Su Luo. Cyan color. To think it was actually cyan-colored. Su Luo looked at the hazy, fluorescently glowing cyan-colored stone in her hand. She was both happy and astonished, which was then followed by excitement. She was as happy as could be. Apothecary Lung had said, only 10 cyan-colored crystal stones were needed to heal Nangong Liuyun's wounds. She was as astonished as could be, that the adorable little dragon could see through the surface to the inside of the stones. She was excited as could be, because she could go source stone gambling, using the lowest prices to bet, and won all the ones with crystal stones in them. However, currently the most important thing was to save Nangong Liuyun. So based on her unlucky little black hands, Su Luo wouldn't even dare to touch those source stones. She let the adorable little dragon to peel all of the source stones. After all, his speed was even faster than a cutting tool. Not using him was a waste. Also, though she did not know what the adorable little dragon's claws were made of, they were probably made of the same material as his teeth. So, as they say, dragons had a natural advantage. Although on the outside he was a little puppy, his teeth and claws were far stronger than that of humans. Just when Su Luo was indulging in flights of fancy, the adorable little dragon had already peeled all of the source stones. Since this group of source stones came from Elder Zihua's cave, therefore the probability of source stones having crystal stones were extremely high. There were approximately 30 stones, apart from those eaten by the adorable little dragon as snacks in the beginning, and those touched by Su Luo's darkly unlucky hands. The rest all had crystal stones. Moreover, the worst were yellow-colored crystal stones. Among them, there were 10 yellow-colored crystal stones, 5 green-colored crystal stones, and there were even 3 cyan-colored crystal stones. Finally, and unexpectedly, even a blue-colored crystal stone was peeled out. This probability was simply going against the heavens. This was calculated according to 5 times the original green-colored crystal stone conversion, given by Apothecary Lung. 1 piece of blue-colored crystal stone was equal to 25 pieces of green-colored crystal stones. 1 piece of cyan-colored crystal stone was equivalent to 5 pieces of green-colored crystal stones. Therefore, in Su Luo's hands, she had 25 plus 15, and adding another 5 pieces, giving a grand total of 45 pieces of green-colored crystal stones. Before, Ling Feng had carried back a lot of source stones, saying they were the ones with the highest probability from the mines. However, from so many source stones, not even a single piece of green-colored crystal stone was found. But her own source stones, which numbered at a few dozen, would contain so many crystal stones. Su Luo had a strong suspicion that Elder Zihua from that time may have had the same skills as the adorable little dragon. He was probably also able to see through source stones and the situation within at a glance. Otherwise, there was simply no other way to explain the high probability of such a large number of high-grade crystal stones appearing in these source stones. However, it was fortunate that at that time she had tossed these stones into her space. Otherwise, she wouldn't know what ought to be done about Nangong Liuyun's injury. After Su Luo appeased the adorable little dragon, she left her space. She arrived at the practice area. This place before was indeed a practice area. However, now, it was a place for cutting source stones. The mood at the site was full of enthusiasm. Everybody was in the midst of enthusiastically cutting source stones. Even Steward Su was also personally cutting stones. But his luck clearly wasn't very good. Su Luo saw him cut open 3 to 4 stones, and found them to be completely empty. Not even a sliver of crystal stone could be seen. When Steward Su saw Su Luo came over, he inevitably let out a groan and said, "This entire afternoon, although a few crystal stones have been found, not a sliver from the side of a green-colored crystal stone could be seen. Ling Feng has become so anxious that he is about to go mad. Not even one was found." Su Luo was so astonished that her eyes opened wide. This entire afternoon, gold coins had been used like running water spilling out. But to actually not find a single green-colored crystal stone? Was it because Ling Feng's luck was too terrible, or that green-colored crystal stones were truly difficult to find in this world? Chapter 136. To have come about with no effort, for no green-colored crystal stones had been cut out from the source stones. However, news had come from the mercenary union, and Ling Feng spent 200,000 gold coins to buy 2 pieces of green-colored crystal stones. He looked at the merely 5 pieces of green-colored crystal stones in his hand, and he was angry enough to be driven mad. He impatiently paced around in the room. He had spared no expense and used all the manpower and physical resources, and yet he had barely managed to obtain 5 pieces. Apothecary Lung had demanded 50 pieces. How could this be enough? It was not enough to even scratch the surface of what was required. Su Luo saw Ling Feng's appearance, which seemed as though he was about to fall apart. She squeezed her fist tightly, wanting to walk up to him, but finally had to stop her footsteps. Passing through the fragments of wasted stone scraps on the ground, she deeply understood the value represented by these crystal stones. Even having a few pieces was comparable to having a mountain of gold and silver. Yet, by what means could she take out the crystal stones smoothly, without making herself look suspicious? This was a difficult problem. Suddenly, a bulb lighted up in her head. Hadn't Ling Feng given a request at the mercenary union? Couldn't she just drop off the crystal stones at the mercenary union? At that time, she would receive a huge amount of gold coins. However, upon closer scrutiny, she could not do it. Without even first considering the consequences of the mercenary union leaking her identity, just thinking of those several tens of millions of gold coins, she had no way to transport it all away. Although she had her space, it also wasn't omnipotent. Right now, it was already practically filled to the brim, and would be unable to fit all those gold coins. Then, how could she give these crystal stones to Ling Feng? Su Luo somewhat anxiously wandered around the courtyard, holding little Meng Meng in her arms. Others were worried about not finding crystal stones, while she was worried about having too many crystal stones. If others were to find out, they would be so infuriated to the point of spitting out blood. Su Luo thought about it, and in the end, she still couldn't find an absolutely safe plan. She might as well just straightforwardly throw it out there, since a broken jar wasn't worth smashing anyway. She stuffed the crystal stones into a cotton sack, handed it all over to Ling Feng, who was so worried that both of his eyes were red, and said, "Here, take it." "What?" Ling Feng's forehead nodded. With an annoyed look he said, "Why are you giving me a bag? The high and mighty Miss Su. I don't have time to play with you right now." Saying this, Ling Feng tossed the bag back to her. His actions were rough and rude. Frightening. He had issued a task to buy each green-colored crystal stone for 100,000 gold coins, and now, he actually threw the entire bag of stones out? Su Luo was dumbfounded. She looked up, down, left and right at this dumbass. She seriously asked, "You really don't want it? Stop messing around. If you have time to go stroll around the mercenary union, maybe like a blind cat, you can also run into a dead mouse and purchase a green-colored crystal stone." Ling Feng impatiently waved his hand with a manner that told her move to the aside. Ling Feng, how did your master raise such a blockhead like you? You don't want the ones delivered to your door, but insist on taking huge amount of money from your pocket to buy it? This miss really didn't want to make a profit from your master His Highness money, but it honestly was that this child didn't know how to appreciate my kindness. Su Luo secretly thought. Mercenary Union? Oh right. Is the assignment you issued for purchasing green-colored crystal stones still count? The assignment for purchasing 1 green-colored crystal stone for 100,000 gold coins. Su Luo again verified with him. To not make use of convenient advantages was the action of a damn idiot. Nangong Luyan. You could only blame yourself for raising such an idiotic subordinate. Naturally, it absolutely counts. If you can hand over a green-colored crystal stone, then I will absolutely offer up the gold coins with both hands. Ling Feng disdainfully swept Su Luo a glance. Can you take out even one? If you can, then I, Ling Feng, will from now on work really hard as your slave. Since it was getting late, and a single green-colored crystal stone still couldn't be found, therefore, Ling Feng's natural ice-cold temperament had now appeared to be very irritable. Taking Ling Feng, whose strength was of the 6th rank, as a slave? What a great idea! Chapter 137. To have come about with no effort. 5. A man of character once said that promises must be kept. Su Luo smiled slyly. Fine, whoever renegades on the promise is a little dog. A devious smile appeared in Su Luo's eyes. She laughingly opened the sack and unhurriedly pulled out a green-colored crystal stone. She proudly waved it in front of Ling Feng. See here, such a beautiful green-colored crystal stone. Someone actually said that he doesn't want it. Such a verdant and glistening green. The green was dazzling to the eyes. Ling Feng stared with astonishment at the sparkling and translucent green-colored crystal stone in Su Luo's hand. In the next second, a joyful ecstasy flashed through his eyes. He snatched the green-colored crystal stone from Su Luo's hand, and unable to contain his joy said, "It truly is. It actually is a green-colored crystal stone." "That's right, even you admit it? I say, Ling Feng, you slave. Shouldn't you now be carrying over some tea and start pouring some for me, your master?" Su Luo leisurely sat on the stone bench in the courtyard, her face smiling with a manner showing that she had gotten away with an evil scheme. Since the beginning, Ling Feng had an attitude towards her of finding fault from her nose to her eyes. Now it was all well and good. He was trapped by his own words. Embarrassment flashed across Ling Feng's ice-cold face. However, emotionless cold people deserve to be called thick-skinned. He automatically ignored Su Luo's words and yelled loudly at her. "Only one? Is there more? Where did you get it?" Su Luo merely fiddled around with the bag, not saying a word, and just smiled. Ling Feng was naturally a wise person. He snatched the bag from her hand and directly opened it to look inside. With just one glance, he immediately became dumbfounded. How could it be? How could such an ordinary cotton bag be stuffed with such priceless crystal stones? It was not limited to just green-colored crystal stones, but it even contained cyan-colored crystal stones? No, that was clearly blue-colored. It couldn't really be a blue-colored crystal stone, right? Ling Feng felt that his brain was about to quickly explode. He stupidly stood there and idiotically stared at those exceptionally rare crystal stones. Once again, he dazedly lifted up his head to stare at Su Luo. Even such an ice-cold and cheerless man couldn't speak clearly. All of this is from, where is it from? From this, it was sufficient to see how moved and excited he was. Su Luo casually waved her hand. She calmly shot him a quick glance, while even putting on an appearance that showed she did not care even a bit. "Isn't it just a few worn-out stones? Look at you. How can you be so excited to such an extent? Worn-out stones." Ling Feng's first reaction was to cut open this fourth miss from the Su family's head to have a look inside. How was her brain constructed? She had actually said that these crystal stones were worn-out stones. What, aren't they worn-out stones? Su Luo's smile was very infuriating. It was the very model of someone having taken convenient advantage and flaunting it. Do you know, by adding together all the crystal stones in here, it is enough to buy an entire city. Ling Feng reproached her loudly. Do you know, His Highness, in order to obtain one blue-colored crystal stone, how much had he spent on manpower and physical resources? And yet he still couldn't get one. You can actually say that it is a worn-out stone. Do you know, just this one blue-colored crystal stone is sufficient to cause a lot of sects to fight over it? Do you know? Stop! Su Luo made a stop hand gesture. I don't know anything, but I only know one thing. If you continue to yell loudly, then you won't be able to safeguard these crystal stones. Immediately, Ling Feng's excitement came to a grinding halt. He inhaled deeply. He controlled his excessively excited mood. Afterwards, with trembling hands, he counted one by one the crystal stones in the bag. He counted no less than 10 times before finally confirming. One piece of blue crystal stone is equivalent to 25 pieces of green-colored crystal stone. 3 cyan-colored crystal stone is equivalent to 15 green-colored crystal stones. Moreover, there was an additional 5 pieces of green-colored crystal stones. Chapter 138. To have come about with no effort. 6. This was too much of a coincidence, right? Adding in the 5 pieces that he had spent an enormous sum to buy. How did it come out to be exactly 50 green-colored crystal stones? Just at this moment, Steward Su hurriedly walked over. His face had a rarely seen smiling expression, and he excitedly said to Ling Feng, "Good news! Extremely good news! The mercenary union has passed along some information, saying that there is a client with quite a few green-colored crystal stones in his hands. However, he wants you to double the original price before selling." Even this is good news? Su Luo stroked little Meng Meng's soft white fur and laughed lightly. If it can save His Highness, then gold coins are not a problem. Steward Su had become beyond worried, due to having found 0 green-colored crystal stones, even after cutting all afternoon. Now, he wished that he could exchange mountains of gold and silver for green-colored crystal stones. A look of disgust flashed across Ling Feng's eyes. Before, they would not sell a single one. But now, they have even started to try to raise the price? Steward Su, go and remove that announcement. This, Steward Su became agitated. Be at ease, we have found the required number of green-colored crystal stones. Su Luo said with a smile. As for where she had obtained them, Ling Feng didn't dare to interrogate her. At most, they could just wait for Nangong Luyan to wake up and explain it to him, and then let him deal with it. Inside the room, when Apothecary Lung saw that huge sack of crystal stones, he couldn't stop being fearful for a long time. The moment he saw that crystal stone shining with a deep blue radiance, his pair of eyes was almost sucked into the eye sockets. For a very long time, his pupils couldn't come out. The always cool-headed Apothecary Lung, the aloof and remote Apothecary Lung, like Ling Feng, also started to stammer. Is it really a blue-colored crystal stone? In his life, he had only gotten to glance at it for a short time, since it was always in others' hands. He didn't even have the qualifications to touch it. For a moment he felt moved, then excitement followed. He felt that this trip was truly worth it. That blue-colored crystal stone radiated a rich, pure spirit air that permeated throughout the room. It made him feel as if his spirit had been cleansed. Ah, blue-colored crystal stone. How could this be possible? In spite of everything, they had really been able to collect so many crystal stones within the short period of one day. Moreover, it also contained a blue-colored crystal stone, which was extremely rare and coveted by people everywhere. This was truly inconceivable. At this moment, Apothecary Lung had surmised that His Highness Prince Jean had an unimaginable amount of mysterious manpower and resources. Su Luo saw that Apothecary Lung's eyes were so mesmerized by the blue-colored crystal stone, so much so that they couldn't leave it. She curiously asked, "Apothecary Lung, can a blue-colored crystal stone replace green-colored crystal stones? There won't be any problems, right?" "There are problems, of course there are problems." His train of thought was interrupted. If it was switched to the normal Apothecary Lung, he would have started yelling at her a lot earlier. Right now he wouldn't even dare to breathe loudly, afraid of profaning that pure blue-colored crystal stone. What kind of problem? Su Luo and Ling Feng both became anxious. Of course there are problems. Putting such a good piece of blue-colored crystal stone in, at that time, the resulting refined medicinal pill will have double the effectiveness. Apothecary Lung chuckled while stroking his few strands of his goatee. He was laughing, and was very pleased with himself. Throughout this old man's entire life, I have never received such great material. This time, I will be able to refine a pill that will be unrivaled. This old guy's talk really made people's heart jump in alarm. But at the same time, both Su Luo and Ling Feng let out a breath of relief. It looked like Nangong Luyan could be saved, right? Then, why aren't you leaving to quickly refine it now? Su Luo urged without delay. The earlier Nangong Luyan could be saved, the quicker her feeling of guilt would be eliminated. Good, this old man will go now. Apothecary Lung's mood could not be described by only the one word for good. The pill refined from this process, aside from helping His Highness Prince Jean, it also had great benefits to himself. Chapter 139 Dark Mist 1. He had been trapped at the advanced apothecary level for many years, because he lacked the chance. Now the opportunity for advancement had come out of nowhere. How could he let it go? Even if Su Luo forbade him from refining the pill, He would yell and cry until she allowed him to refine it. When Su Luo saw Apothecary Lung's unconstrained excited mood, she very slyly and cunningly opened her mouth to say, "Wait." Although Apothecary Lung turned his head around, he had a death grip on the sack of crystal stones and stood in a posture, as if trying to prevent Su Luo from running over and snatching the sack away. Su Luo secretly laughed inside. "I wasn't worried that you wouldn't cherish it. I was just afraid that you wouldn't know its value. If an elder such as yourself doesn't like it, then what could I use as a bargaining chip to negotiate conditions with?" Su Luo pretended to take back the sack by reaching for it, but Apothecary Lung's speed was surprisingly fast. She had no idea what mysterious steps he used as he slipped away through the side. Su Luo wasn't even able to catch a corner of his clothing. "Apothecary Lung, those are my crystal stones," Su Luo shouted, feigning anger. Her facial expression looked very pained. "What do you want?" Apothecary Lung subconsciously blurted out. He hadn't realized that just by asking, he had revealed his desperation. How could someone who spent years peacefully refining medicine be Su Luo's opponent? He saw Su Luo slowly throw him a glance. Her hands holding little Meng Meng unhurriedly caressed the puppy's fur. She slowly and serenely said, "I suddenly changed my mind. I want to keep that piece of blue-colored crystal stone." "No way." Apothecary Lung unhesitantly and absolutely refused. "I can't return the blue-colored crystal stone to you." "Why? Those stones were mine to begin with. Besides, I have other uses for it." Su Luo acted as if she was troubled. "This piece of blue-colored crystal stone will be very useful when I want to level up my cultivation in the future. To have such an opportunity to take advantage, only an idiot would pass it up." Su Luo would never give up such a rare opportunity. The opponent was Apothecary Lung Yen, this empire's only third advanced apothecary. If she didn't extort some goods, then in the future, wouldn't she not feel ashamed when saying she had met Apothecary Lung? It is possible to stimulate your cultivation by using immortality pills. Whatever immortality pills you need, this old man can exchange with you. No need for exchange. This old man will give it to you directly. Well, what kind of immortality pills do you want? Apothecary Lung was worthy of being called single-minded. He directly jumped into Su Luo's trap. Su Luo, while holding the upper hand, did not even think twice before trying to set the price. She looked at Apothecary Lung for a while with a "you are making it difficult for me" expression before slowly saying, "What kind of immortality pills do you think could be equal to this blue-colored crystal stone? What kind of price do you feel is worthy of this blue-colored crystal stone? Such a generous advanced apothecary like yourself won't take advantage of a junior like me, right?" At the side, Ling Feng's mouth twitched. She was truly worthy of being the object of His Highness Prince Jin's infatuation. Su Luo was as two-faced, cunning, and devious as His Highness. Ling Feng really wanted to remind Apothecary Lung that the blue-colored crystal stone had been provided for His Highness Prince Jin's benefit. Apothecary Lung still had not mentioned his own fees yet. However, Ling Feng didn't understand Apothecary Lung as well as Su Luo did. In Apothecary Lung's straightforward black and white world, this blue-colored crystal stone could be the deciding factor to help him advance to the next level of elite apothecary. This level of advancement to such a medicine fanatic could not be exchanged for any amount of gold coins or immortality pills. Furthermore, with regards to Apothecary Lung, he may not have a lot of other things, but he had an abundance of immortality pills. Apothecary Lung thought about it and very shamefully said, "How about I give you half of all the immortality pills that I have refined?" From Apothecary Lung's point of view, he had taken huge advantage of Su Luo. After all, that blue-colored crystal stone from years ago, he had only the qualification to see it from a distance. Now this piece of blue-colored crystal stone was already in his hands. Chapter 140 Dark Mist 2. Half of all of the pills he refined? Even Su Luo was so shocked that it took a while for her to wake up. The amount presented really was worthy of being offered by Apothecary Lung. It was indeed a cost of massive proportions. As expected of a spendthrift. Half. Su Luo was well versed in methods of haggling over the price, so she muttered out half a phrase, not agreeing yet not disagreeing. All the while she still gave her opponent enough space to think. The biggest weakness of people like Apothecary Lung, who spend their entire life immersed in research on medicine, were their single-mindedness and impoliteness. An apothecary was the best model for this type of person. He saw Su Luo's hesitation and couldn't help but become worried and hurriedly said, "If half is not enough, then 2/3. The stock of refined immortality pills that this old man has accumulated for many years, 2/3 of it will be given to you. How about it?" Such a wealthy and overbearing Apothecary Lung. This bold, imposing manner and extravagance almost even made Su Luo choke. However, what kind of person was Su Luo? She was a model of treacherous miss, trying to take advantage of someone, while trying to sell an obedient front to others. They only saw her face revealing having an incredibly small, pained expression, half-heartedly and undecidedly looked at Ling Feng. Then looked at Apothecary Lung, as if still unable to make a final decision. Ling Feng immediately turned his face away. He really didn't have the heart to see a person of good moral standing and reputation, like Apothecary Lung, being led by the nose by this little girl. Apothecary Lung, with a very serious and deadly earnest expression, stared at Su Luo. Both of his hands had a death grip on the sack with crystal stones, as if saying, "If you dare steal the bag, then I will start yelling at you" expression. Then okay. Since it's Apothecary Lung who asked, then of course I will give you face. Then this is thus settled. Su Luo hesitated for a while before agreeing. She would never tell Apothecary Lung that she actually wanted to extort knockout drugs, poison, such type of pills. Who knew that Apothecary Lung would be so sincere? If she didn't take the opportunity to rip off even more, then she would have felt that she had let down this golden opportunity bestowed by the heavens. If there are convenient advantages that I don't take, then the fury of heavens may split me in half with lightning. At this time Apothecary Lung released a breath of relief and wiped at the non-existent cold sweat on his forehead. Momentarily he felt that this girl was more difficult to handle than even the most profound immortality pill recipe. Immediately Apothecary Lung wanted to return to his manor and start refining this immortality pill. After 3 days of refining, Apothecary Lung personally came over cupping a delicate little embroidered box. At the same time, in his horse carriage there was also a 10-centimeter long wooden box. He handed the wooden box to Su Luo. "This old man's collection for many years are mostly in here. Quickly take it." They had been collected for so many years, and in a moment were given away. Apothecary Lung had been somewhat unable to cope with his feelings. However, his expression was very joyful. Could this old man really succeeded in becoming an elite apothecary? Su Luo had asked. And Apothecary Lung, with only a few strokes of the whiskers of his goat-like beard, had happily laughed straight away. Su Luo's heart clearly understood. This old man certainly did get promoted, otherwise he wouldn't be so generous. But when she see the inside of that box, "This is what you called 2/3 of your stuff. So little?" Su Luo was somewhat dumbfounded. How come it was so different from what she had imagined? 2/3, ah, shouldn't it be at least a trunk of stuff? How could it be such a small case? Apothecary Lung glared at Su Luo as if looking at an idiot, blew at his beard, scowled and angrily rebuked. "Such a girl? What kind of stuff do you think this old man refines? Do you think it's the 3 types of indiscriminate knockout drugs, poison and like?" Su Luo suddenly had an urge to cry. Who knew that Apothecary Lung would proudly continue to say, "All the things this old man refined were unique secret recipes. Didn't you see those people kneeling in front of this old man's manor door? Even one of the pills in here could make those people scoop out their hearts and hand it to you. You girl who don't even know the good from the bad, could even dare to look down on it. But what does she need those hearts for?" Chapter 141 Dark Mist 3. Her home manor was a mess with a bunch of things that needed to be settled. Dealing with so many corrupt and sinister people, she needed those indiscriminate knockout drugs, poisons, and aphrodisiacs for self-protection. If you don't want these immortality pills, then what do you want? Apothecary Lung was very confused. All the people he had come across longed for these immortality pills, until they almost went insane. Su Luo simply and honestly told him the truth regarding what she really needed. The result was that Apothecary Lung became infuriated. He widened his eyes and glared. With an attitude of wanting to eat her, and panting with rage, he said, "How could this old man refine those? Only elementary apothecaries would refine such dirty, indiscriminate types of pills. How could you look down on this old man so much? Do you know that every single immortality pill in this box could be exchanged for a carriage full of the pills you want?" Facing apothecary Lung's "you don't know crap" expression, Su Luo felt deeply inferior. It turned out that a single immortality pill in the box could be exchanged for an entire carriage of knockout drugs. She really didn't know anything at all. Apothecary Lung snorted, tossed his sleeves and entered the room. Su Luo found it a deserted corner, and prudently placed that small box of immortality pills into her space. Apothecary Lung's products must be extraordinary goods. Before she could progress to the advanced apothecary stage, this small box of immortality pills will be very useful to her. Within the chamber, Nangong Luyan quietly laid on the bed. Even though he was unconscious, his expression was still stern and gloomy due to the pain. Both of his hands were tightly clenched into fists with blue veins bursting out as Nangong Luyan was using a lot of strength to hold on. His face emitted a bloodthirsty and murderous air. "Make him swallow this bottle of medicine," Apothecary Lung said after inspecting Nangong Luyan's injuries, nodding his head towards Su Luo. Under Apothecary Lung's directions, Su Luo helped Nangong Luyan to sit up. She leaned his ice-cold and stiff body onto hers, and with great difficulty fed the bottle of black medicine into his mouth. When the medicine first entered, Nangong Luyan had no particular reaction. After about an hour, the medicine started to take effect on Nangong Luyan's body. "Open up his clothing," Apothecary Lung loudly instructed. Su Luo untied Nangong Luyan's purple-colored belt. His breathing had become shallow and hurried. His porcelain white as jade chest rapidly rose and fell, giving off a 100% wild and sexy appearance. This made Su Luo, who was looking on, scorching hot, and she swallowed mouthful after mouthful of saliva. Su Luo gave Apothecary Lung a puzzled look. Apothecary Lung nodded his head and said, "His Highness Prince Jin's exceptionally good natural aptitude is truly worthy of praise. Even in the unconscious state, he could advance to the 7th rank based on the circulation of his meridians." He advanced to the 7th rank this way. Su Luo's pair of beautiful eyes moved around. An inconceivable shock flashed through their depths. Suddenly, Apothecary Lung bleakly said, "Not good." Chapter 142 Dark Mist 4. Su Luo looked nervously at Nangong Luyan. She only saw his originally white as jade skin had black-colored mist rising out of all his pores. This dark mist became increasingly dense, and it almost completely shrouded his entire body. At the same time, Apothecary Lung's expression now had a sudden, huge change. In an instant, a brilliant light soared, tearing apart that dark mist. The entire sky was filled with shooting star-like lights that fell down. They circled around Nangong Luyan's body, and then spread out in all 4 directions. The ground violently shook, like the violent bellowing rage of an ancient beast that came from underground. It was as if something had awoken. Brilliant lights soared, launching in all directions, and bringing along a dark force bent on destruction, as if it could devour everything in its path. Apothecary Lung, who was closest to Nangong Luyan, was shaken until he collapsed and immediately lost consciousness. There was nowhere for Su Luo to run. At this critical moment, a burst of sharp dragon cry came from the adorable little dragon's mouth. A golden ray of light covered Su Luo, helping her avoid this dangerous attack. But the people outside were not as lucky. Wherever the brilliant light passed, wretched and miserable cries could be heard. Immediately, blood rained everywhere, with more swirling in the air. The blood mist continued to spread, dropping off slices of dismembered body parts. In a moment, a dark force that could destroy the heavens and wipe out the earth caused a period of violent quakes that shook the earth and mountains. In a flash, the entire manor was almost shaken into ruins. People could only hear the sounds of houses crashing down, like the autumn leaves drifting in the rain and wind, tottering on the verge of collapse. And soon, these structures that were being shaken were completely razed to the ground. The entire manor seemed as if an aircraft bomber had devastated it, thoroughly destroying everything. It was an area that withered away until it became dust. Almost everyone in the manor was shaken until they became unconscious. However, at this moment, Nangong Liuyun's body rose and sat in the lotus position. His face was like autumn, bright as the stars, both hands intertwined in front of his chest, making strange hand gestures. Su Luo rubbed her eyes, thinking that she must be seeing things. In all directions, everything was in ruins. However, in the middle of the ruins, Nangong Luyun sat in the lotus position. His entire body was shrouded in a mysterious dark mist, unfathomable and strange. At the same time, there was also an air of a king lording over the entire world that made people revere, kneel and worship. And then an even more incredible and unbelievable thing. Behind his back, a mysterious shadow appeared. It resembled a dragon but was not a dragon. It resembled a phoenix but was not a phoenix. It was terrible, frightening and strange. It had a kind of domineering aggressiveness that was formidable enough to destroy the sky and wipe out the earth, with a look of disdain that lorded over the world. Well, what was that thing? How could it appear on Nangong Liuyun's back as a shadow? What did those 50 green-colored crystal stones trigger in Nangong Luyun? Nangong Liuyun's bloodline? Was he really just a simple prince of this empire? Su Luo's gaze was deep. She unblinkingly stared at Nangong Liuyun's solemn expression. That handsome, outstanding and mysterious appearance. Her heart and thoughts were in complete chaos, full of questions. At the same time, the dark forest sinking sunset peak on a hilltop. An elderly person of indeterminate age, with white eyebrows and hair, sat cross-legged. He was in the midst of cultivating, and perhaps because a long time had passed, his body was covered in a thick layer of dust. He suddenly opened his eyes. They were clear and shone brightly. He then looked towards a place in the east. He looked for a long time. Finally, his brows wrinkled, and he muttered to himself. A prophecy from 1,000 years ago, could it possibly be true? Darkness and chaos. The heavenly laws are hard to fathom. Even this old man can't see it clearly, alas. Ultimately, he just sighed and did nothing. He merely closed his eyes tightly and entered into a state of cultivation, as if he had never woken up, never said a single word. Chapter 143. His Highness Prince Jin. 1. At this moment, Nangong Luyun was tottering as if he was about to fall to the ground. Before Su Luo could react, there was already a figure flying as fast as lightning towards Nangong Luyun. He caught Nangong Luyun's limp body that was about to fall to the ground. Your Highness! Ling Feng anxiously yelled out loud. At the same time, he exasperatedly roared at Su Luo. How could you just stand there and watch as His Highness fell to the ground and not help him? A faint feeling of guilt bubbled forth from Su Luo's heart. Because Nangong Luyun was very close to her. All Su Luo had to do was reach out, and she would have been able to support him. However, she had been distracted and did not notice him falling. Nangong Luyun's demonic charming beauty was at its peak. This made him seem almost gentle and reserved. After pushing the responsibility of holding Nangong Luyun to Su Luo, Ling Feng rushed away. He very quickly and forcefully pulled Apothecary Lung by the shoulder and dragged him over. Ling Feng shoved Apothecary Lung right in front of Nangong Luyun. Quickly check on His Highness. Apothecary Lung was still dizzy from being hit by that assortment of brilliant rays of light. He didn't even have a chance to nap before being shaken awake by Ling Feng. Ling Feng did not even give Apothecary Lung time to fully wake up before dragging him over. At this moment, Apothecary Lung's face was bruised, and there was bloodstain on his forehead. It was quite clear he had been injured by the falling building debris. However, Ling Feng did not give him any time to breathe or recover before pulling him towards Nangong Luyun. Quickly check over His Highness. Apothecary Lung grudgingly glared at him, like a scholar encountering a soldier. Even if what he wanted to say was justified, Ling Feng would not be able to comprehend. This type of military personnel only knew how to speak with brute force. Although Apothecary Lung was very arrogant, in front of an expert martial artist like Ling Feng, he could not be haughty or arrogant. What's more, Apothecary Lung was also curious about what kind of profound mystery happened on His Highness Prince Jin's body. How could his body be surrounded by a black-colored mist? Moreover, how had Prince Jin advanced to the 7th rank? He had never heard of anyone that could release such a formidable stream of aura, or of anyone who could successfully shake all the buildings near his body into fine powder. When Apothecary Lung checked Nangong Liuyan's pulse, his eyebrows rose slightly. He had a puzzled expression on his face. How is he? Seeing that Apothecary Lung had finally finished checking Nangong Liuyan, Ling Feng asked with a nervous expression. He unblinkingly stared at Apothecary Lung, afraid of missing any change of expression on his face. Strange, alas, very strange. Apothecary Lung stroked his sparse goat hair-like beard, his face full of bewilderment and incomprehension. It shouldn't be like this. How did it turn out like this? It shouldn't be like this? What did it turn into? Su Luo concisely and comprehensively caught the main point. Apothecary Lung frowned and said, "Currently His Highness Prince Jin's entire body is full of power. As if it was about to surge out, he should be weak instead." What he didn't say was that High Highness Prince Jin had entered the 7th rank. Moreover, his 7th rank was much stronger than other people's 7th rank. It really was unimaginable for other people. Will there be problems? Ling Feng fiercely glared at Apothecary Lung. Right now there aren't any problems, as for in the future, this old man cannot say. Apothecary Lung had a complicated expression as he looked Nangong Liuyan up and down. His pair of eyes were radiant and sparkling, as if he wanted to dissect Nangong Liuyan for research. In any case, he could recognize and was aware that the person before his eyes was not just any person, but rather the unrivaled His Highness Prince Jin. So he could only heave a sigh and suppress this restless way of thinking. He didn't even dare to mention it. Since there were no problems at the moment, then she does not need to worry excessively. Su Luo was relieved and lifted her eyes to Ling Feng. This situation will require you to go and personally handle it. Chapter 144. His Highness Prince Jin too. With such a large commotion, how could the senior provincial officer not know? He would definitely dispatch troops over at the fastest speed. Ling Feng looked at the disorderly surroundings. Mutilated corpses were wildly strewn about the place. It was indeed unsuitable for His Highness's recuperation. He nodded and said, "Indeed, considering that His Highness is still very weak at present, there's no need to meet with those outsiders." Ling Feng carefully helped Nangong Liuyan onto the dragon-scaled horse carriage, before allowing Su Luo to get on board. Then he personally drove the dragon-scaled horse carriage towards a completely different direction in a rush. His Highness Prince Jin had numerous assets. Even in this city alone, he had no less than 3 estates. After about the length of time needed to burn a stick of incense, the dragon-scaled horse stopped at the entrance of a hot spring villa. Magnificent mountain villa. Built on the hillside, its courtyard was secluded and quiet. Within the mountain villa was a lake, although very small. It was crystal clear upon viewing. Ivy was sprawled all over its shores, dense and flourishing, appearing very fresh and delightful to the eye. There were rock garden made of piled-up stones, which possessed a natural charm. Beside the lake, built near the water, was a loft, actually enshrouded in dense and hazy mist. Nestled between centuries-old trees and obscured by fog, its faintly discernible appearance was fairy-tale-like. Su Luo entered, following behind Ling Feng. The strange thing was, they had encountered not even a single person along the way here. Opening the doors of that hazy loft, what appeared before Su Luo's eyes was an inner chamber, as wide as a temple hall. Within the huge inner chamber, mist floated about due to the dense heat, with white ivory screen made from elephant tusk to separate the inside and outside. Walking around to behind the screen, Su Luo was inevitably surprised, secretly praising. Nangong Liuyan indeed lived up to his name. Such great expenditure, such extravagant comfort. That nearly 100 square meters bath actually was made from white jade tiles. And it could be seen at a glance that the water came from a hot spring, giving off waves of heat, tempting people to submerge and swim in it. Each of those descending steps were actually made of rare suet white jade. Not any other kind of green or yellow jade, but the really rare suet white jade. Su Luo secretly became speechless. In her previous world, just a small piece of suet white jade was already worth thousands of millions. Yet here, Nangong Liuyan had actually used it to tile the stairs and step on it. What kind of feet were his? Really, this was too extravagant. Even the sophisticated Su Luo could not help shaking her head. Ling Feng placed Nangong Luyan beside the hot spring and turned to Su Luo, looking stern before he spoke seriously. It is now up to you to care for His Highness. With that said, he coldly glared at Su Luo and turned to leave. Su Luo was just about to agree when her mind suddenly jolted. Something's not right. If it was anywhere else, it would still be fine. Yet what location was this? Hot springs. A single man and woman sharing a bath. Something was definitely not right. Su Luo loudly shouted at him. Stop where you are, Ling Feng. Just where are you going? In any case, Ling Feng should remain here, should he not? If not. Su Luo glanced at the unconscious and faintly breathing Nangong Luyan. Although his weak breaths made him seem rather harmless, somehow, she still not dared to think of sharing the same room with him. Ling Feng paused and glanced at Nangong Luyan with a complicated expression. Yet, when he turned his gaze to Su Luo, his icy tone allowed no refusal as he aggressively asked. The fourth Miss Su, may I ask if the reason why His Highness went to Sunset Mountains, was it not for you? Su Luo could not help but admit that it was true. Was it not for you that His Highness forcefully stopped his recovery, thus making his injury even more serious? Ling Feng spoke in a browbeat manner. Chapter 145, His Highness Prince Jean III. Su Luo was unable to refute this. Clearly it was a fact. His Highness' original injury was under control, and would have remained so. Wasn't it you who punched him until he spat out blood? Ling Feng step by step closed in on Su Luo, as if itching to swallow her. The veins on Su Luo's forehead was throbbing. It was in fact this way, however. Just now when His Highness was about to fall, the person closest to his side was you, the fourth Miss Su. Wasn't it you, who didn't even try to help His Highness a little? Ling Feng aggressively stated. Su Luo's heart was about to yell out she had been wronged, but she choked it down. It was not because she didn't want to help, but she was distracted by the shadow behind Nangong Luyan's back, okay? How come after listening to Ling Feng's complaints, even she herself felt that she was loathsome and deserved to be thrown into the 18 layers of hell? Why had Nangong Luyan become the model for the lofty figure of heroism, who had sacrificed himself for others? Just when Su Luo appeared to be twisted up in confusion, Ling Feng had a sympathetic gaze as he glanced at her. He also silently looked at his master, His Highness, who was pretending to appear weak and harmless. The corner of his mouth moved silently, and calmly turned around to leave. He also very kindly closed the thick black iron door while passing. Hey! Seeing the black iron door was about to close, Su Luo suddenly felt like crying but lacked the tears. This is just great. Such a huge palace, with curtains flying, gorgeous extravagant white jade, hot spring bath the size of a pond. The water from the pond-sized bath shone clear and crystalline, such that you could see the bottom. A dense hot steam floated vaguely around as if extending everywhere within the air. Su Luo hesitantly stood in her original spot, unable to turn around yet. All of a sudden, Su Luo heard a heavy-weighted object falling into the water. She immediately turned around and could not find Nangong Luyan's figure. She only saw the surface of the hot spring water continuously bursting with bubbles, while the water ripples reflected the sunlight. It couldn't be. Su Luo hastily rushed to the place where Nangong Luyan was located. The pool of water was crystal clear, so Su Luo immediately saw the apparently sleeping Nangong Luyan sinking to the bottom. Had he rolled into the hot spring water? Su Luo didn't even think. She stripped off her outerwear and gracefully dove into the beautiful hot spring water, striving to swim to where Nangong Luyan was. Very quickly she found him. Su Luo wanted to drag Nangong Luyan out of the water. When did Nangong Luyan become so heavy? Su Luo inwardly grumbled bitterly in her heart. She sank underwater while trying to tow Nangong Luyan, but unfortunately she discovered that now his weight exceeded 500 kilograms. No matter how she exerted her strength, she could not move him the slightest. Furthermore, making her heart even more alarmed, was that he held his breath underwater until his complexion turned purplish, as if any moment he would suffocate it to death. This man, he was fine, but how did he just roll into here? Su Luo gave a depressed sigh in her heart. Today, how come so many strange things have happened? First was the weird shadow that appeared behind Nangong Luyan. Next, such a fine manner was destroyed successfully, becoming pieces of trash. Finally, his body suddenly seemed to weigh 500 kilograms. It really was a strange day. Su Luo felt that she really should find some time to go to the temple and pray. But in front of her eyes, how could she watch helplessly as Nangong Luyan suffocate to death? Although Su Luo was almost suffocating from holding her breath, after some quick thought, she finally closed her eyes and very fiercely took the initiative to deliver her sweet lips to help pass some much-needed air to Nangong Luyan. At the bottom of the crystalline hot spring, on the white jade that was used as tiling, there was a pair of immortal-looking beautiful man and woman, whose lips were locked lovingly and inseparably. The close-eyed Su Luo didn't notice. Nangong Luyan, who was close at hand, had raised his eyebrows. An amused and interested smile flashed across his face. He had clearly regained consciousness a long time ago. He clearly fell into the hot spring pool on purpose. He obviously calculated that Su Luo would try to save him. But Su Luo does not know. Right now she was silently cursing him while passing air to him through the lips. Chapter 146, High Highness Prince Jin 4. After Su Luo had satisfactorily passed enough air to Nangong Luyan and was about to leave, in a split second, his passive body unexpectedly moved. He seized both of her lips. His nimble and hot tongue entered her mouth to besiege and plunder. The surging passion burst into flames as their lips and tongues connected. Nangong Luyan drunkenly kissed her, his large hands sliding down to loosen Su Luo's belt. He caressed her skin that was smooth as silk and white as snow. Both of Su Luo's lips were plump, enticing him to intensely suck on them even more. Her body had become weak and boneless, completely lacking any strength to resist. Suddenly, Su Luo felt something was not quite right, and immediately regained her senses. Nangong Luyan. He was actually not unconscious. It was only now that Su Luo realized she had been played by this man. She had been so concerned about him, that in order to save his life, she had taken the initiative to give him air to breathe. However, he had actually used her concern to deceive her. Really, her efforts had been eaten by a dog. Good intentions had not received good compensation. It was like a dog biting the hand that fed it. Su Luo furiously pushed Nangong Luyan away, panting with rage as she swam to the surface. She was so angry that she walked directly towards the shore. At the bottom of the pool, Nangong Luyan let out a sigh. His Luo girl was truly not easy to deceive. Luo girl. Nangong Luyan surfaced from the water, calling out to stop the raging Su Luo from leaving. His voice was like the sound of nature, charming and deep, with a touch of frustration. Su Luo's figure stopped for a split second, but then continued to leave with large strides. Just like this, you think you can escape this king? Nangong Luyan's voice had a touch of self-mockery and sorrow at being abandoned. Su Luo's figure stopped, giving him only a view of her indifferent back. Nangong Luyan had obviously played a trick on her. Why was he making it seem as if she was the loathsome and unpardonable party? Be good, come here. Seeing her pause, Nangong Luyan's mood improved. He shallowly smiled and beckoned to her with his hand. However, Su Luo merely gave a cold hump, while still stubbornly presenting her back to him. Nangong Luyan saw that he was failing to convince Su Luo to return, so he changed his tone of voice. Nangong Luyan's voice became demonically charming and deep with sadness, as he dejectedly said. This king felt that he had slept for quite a while. I thought that I will never wake up again. I also thought that I would never see Luo girl again. Don't you want to see this king's appearance after successfully waking up? His tone was miserable and wretched, like a little puppy that had been discarded by his owner begging for a trace of pity from his master. Su Luo was immediately infuriated to the point that she wanted to laugh. Please, you are the legendary His Highness Prince Jin, who looked disdainfully down at the world, okay? A grand majestic 7th-ranked expert, okay? How could you act so weak and beseech someone like me? How could you act so cute and shameless towards me? But damn it! When she had heard that sentence of never waking up, Su Luo felt pain squeezing the deepest part of her heart for a while. Su Luo recalled these past few days when she had been by Nangong Liuyun's side taking care of him. How she had felt apprehensive and alarmed because of him. She had also felt ashamed and remorseful. Su Luo had repeatedly blamed herself for that punch. She suddenly felt the rims of her eyes begin to ache, and experienced a kind of unprecedented feeling of being wronged. How could he tease her like this? However, how could Su Luo, who habitually concealed her feelings in the depths of darkness, show her weakness in front of others? After settling her emotions, Su Luo unhurriedly turned around and displayed a tranquil expression that did not contain a single ripple. She step by step approached Nangong Liuyun, finally crouching down by his side. The corner of her mouth lifted into a taunting and sarcastic smile. His Highness Prince Jean seems to have such peculiar interests, like using one's own life to play jokes. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? Her laugh was very dark and terribly sinister. Chapter 147. His Highness Prince Jean 5. Nangong Liuyun pretended that he had been wronged. If I didn't use these tactics, then how could I get Luo girl to notice this king? Su Luo gritted her teeth, itching to skin him alive. When did you regain consciousness? She should have realized it earlier. Why else would Ling Feng have become so talkative all of a sudden, forcing her to stay behind to take care of Nangong Liuyun? If he didn't have Nangong Liuyun's order, how could he dare? Nangong Liuyun knew he could not fool such a clever girl, so he tried to change the topic. Extremely smart girls are not cute. Luo girl, help this king take a bath, okay? When have you ever seen this miss being cute? Su Luo coldly smiled. Act cute? Help him bathe? Did he want her to take a knife to scrub him with during his bath? It's amazing that he had the gall to say this. Sure enough, he had already regained consciousness in that ruined manner. He deliberately pretended to be weak to deceive her. You are even more cute like this. Immediately after he finished speaking, Nangong Liuyun abruptly closed his hand. In the next moment, the steps that Su Luo had been standing on disintegrated. She didn't even have time to evade when her entire body suddenly flew backwards. Su Luo fell into the hot spring pool with a loud splashing sound. By some strange coincidence, both of her legs ended up wrapped around Nangong Liuyun's waist with their eyes facing each other. With such a posture and such an environment, if others were to enter, how could their imagination not run wild? Sharp-mouthed and soft-hearted girl, look around. Your body doesn't lie. It already threw itself at this king. The corner of Nangong Liuyun's mouth turned up into a demonic and flattering smile that was extremely hateful. This Nangong Liuyun. Su Luo gritted her teeth. She felt that being together with this man, if there was a day she was not infuriated with him, then that meant she had already died from being mad at him. In short, she would eventually die from being continuously angered by him. Nangong Liuyun's enchanting face was rosy and shone like gems from being steamed by the water. With a demonically charming smile he said, Obedient Luo, what are you mad about? Could it be that what this king said is wrong? Release me. Su Luo clenched her teeth to calm down her emotions, and indifferently opened her mouth to speak. It was you who threw yourself into my arms and refused to let go. Nangong Liuyun hoisted his chin, and said this with a straight face. Instead of releasing Su Luo, his hold on her became even tighter. Su Luo grabbed a snow-white ice-cold dagger from her space. She pressed the dagger against his ivory-white chest, coldly smiled and said, Keep your hands to yourself, okay? Then it's okay for this king to use his mouth, right? Nangong Liuyun blinked his beautiful eyes innocently at her, seeking her approval. From their first meeting when he had set the betting terms with her of victor would become king, and loser had to warm the bed. She knew that Nangong Liuyun's words had a double meaning. He absolutely did not mean he intended to use his mouth to speak. Su Luo's complexion darkened, and she threateningly said, Don't assume that I wouldn't dare to take action. Since this mist can hit you until you spit out blood, I'm not afraid to use this to kill you. God knows why, Nangong Liuyun started to smile. His smile was exceedingly enticing to all living things. That smile on the edge of his lips made his entire body even more enchanting. His smile drew people's gazes to him, making them unable to look away. Nangong Liuyun completely ignored that ice-cold dagger at his chest. He extended his slender white hand to pick up Su Luo's ink-black hair. that was soaked by the hot water. With a sinister air that had the power to make people tremble, he said, "Adorable Luo girl, this king likes you more and more. What's to be done? From now on, I will never be willing to part with you." Nangong Luoyan paid no attention to the sharp dagger pressed against his chest. It was as if he was ignoring the fact that with just a little push, the dagger would thrust into his heart, piercing it like paper. He merely unhurriedly moved his lower body, slowly approaching Su Luo. Both people met face to face, nose to nose and red lips to red lips. They were so close, each could feel the air that the other person was breathing out. An ambiguous atmosphere started to solidify in the air. Chapter 148, His Highness Prince Jean 6, "Release me." A thread of helplessness flashed across Su Luo's heart. Damn it! How could she have forgotten? This man was ruthless towards others, but even more toward himself. Before, when he forced her to use a dagger to pierce himself, it should have been sufficient to illustrate this point. So hateful. She had actually forgotten, and she dared to hold a dagger to threaten him again. Damn it! The corner of Nangong Luoyan's mouth was still lifted into a careless smile. He lowered his head. His distance to Su Luo was decreasing, getting closer and closer. Seeing her vexed expression, he gave a knowing, demonically charming smile. Then once more he seized her breath. Damn it, this guy should just go and die. Right now Su Luo had provided a cage to entrap someone else. But instead she maneuvered around so much while leading the prey, that she had ended up trapping herself inside. Could she be so ruthless as to stab him? Clearly she couldn't do it. It had been very difficult for her to save him, so how could she once again injure him? Therefore the dagger in her hand quietly fell to the floor. Nangong Luoyan released her. He laughed wantonly with a demonic charm. Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw that dagger sink underwater. When it hit the ground, Nangong Luoyan's mood seemed to have become extremely good. His entire person seemed to be radiating with health and vigor, as if he had obtained his life's greatest desire. It was so great that the atmosphere around him also brightened. He found that he had discovered Su Luo's weakness. His Luo girl was truly cute, really cute. Just at this time, all of a sudden a ruthless, cold expression flashed through Nangong Luoyan's eyes. What Su Luo did not know was right now, outside on top of that 1,000-year-old ancient tree, a sharp feathered arrow was being aimed at her vital point. This was a master whose entire body was shrouded in black cloth, with not even a strand of hair exposed. He was hidden in the tree branches, concealing his figure among the lush leaves, motionless, like a hidden snake waiting for the right time to spray out its poison to kill a person. Suddenly his hand loosened, and the feathered arrow split the sky, bursting out as it was murderously launched toward Su Luo. This arrow, due to it being blocked by the window, had gone completely undetected by Su Luo. Even if she became aware of it, she still couldn't have avoided it with her level of skill. This was because the person who launched the arrow had high martial arts skills, absolutely above the 6th rank, completely not someone Su Luo could stop. Due to Su Luo's instinct that guard against danger, her body slightly trembled. She instinctively wanted to dodge. Just at this moment, Nangong Luoyan lowered his head and once again seized her red lips. He wrapped her entire body within his embrace. He protected her by wrapping her so tightly that they were joined seamlessly. Just then, that bright silvery arrow broke through the window and entered, carrying with it the sound of thunder, 5,000 kilograms of force, and a murderous air. If Nangong Luoyan hadn't advanced to the 7th rank, then he would either have had to use his body to block this arrow, or let Su Luo die. These would have been the only two possible choices. The enemy was forcing Nangong Luoyan to choose. Either choose to save his own life, or save the woman who was a good-for-nothing. It was clearly obvious that the enemy figured that Nangong Luoyan loved himself, and his own life the most. It was also evident that the other party wanted Su Luo to look on helplessly, and clearly see how cruel Nangong Luoyan will treat her by letting her die. The person who launched the arrow had calculated all these details, included all the possible circumstances into this plan. Now the black masked person's gloomy and cold expression had a cruel smirk, as if victory was in sight. However, the reality made him frown, because he would never have anticipated that in such a short time, that even with Nangong Liuyun's serious internal injuries, he would advance to the 7th rank. Could only see Nangong Liuyun cause the pool of water to stir up like a geyser. The white-colored water changed into a dragon in midair, silently roaring and swallowed that arrow. Swift like the wind, quick like lightning. Moreover, when Nangong Liuyun counterattacked, he was unruffled as before, still kissing Su Luo. His figure was as steady as a boulder, with not a bit of tremor. Chapter 149. Secrets Revealed 1. Therefore, even as murderous intent surrounded them, and under circumstances where a moment of carelessness could prove fatal, Su Luo was completely protected within Nangong Liuyun's embrace. Confused from the lack of air, and with her vision blocked, Su Luo was completely unaware of the truth despite sensing that something was not quite right. It was only after the battle had settled that Nangong Liuyun unhurriedly released her. Seeing Su Luo repeatedly inhaling large mouthfuls of air, he smiled with demonic charm. "Do you like this king kissing you?" Su Luo was infuriated to the point that she was speechless. In the end, she just glared at him, and picked up her dagger to leave. However, all of a sudden, her figure stood still. When did such a large amount of fine powder accumulate in the hot spring pool? Moreover, it looked like the powder was actually black iron. Additionally, its original shape could be vaguely seen to resemble that of an arrow. Su Luo's line of sight shot towards the window. A finger-sized hole could be seen there. Its notch was smooth and round, not too big or small, and just the right size for an arrow to enter. Su Luo rolled her eyes, and fixed them decidedly on Nangong Liuyun. She stared at him coldly and solemnly, yet she did not speak a single word. Nangong Liuyun stood up from the hot spring pool, completely exposing his slender and youthful body, before Su Luo. Conspicuously messy long hair as pitch black as ink draped over his broad shoulders, dripping rivulets of water droplets. Crimson cornelian cherries decorated that refined white porcelain-like chest. Broad shoulders, narrow buttocks and a pair of straight and slender legs drew a perfect outline, tempting others to sin. He was so captivating that it was almost criminal. His unique and incomparable face bore an enticing smile that could only have been made by heaven, and beautiful, profoundly mysterious eyes as pitch black as an abyss. When these orbs gazed into Su Luo's eyes, they were filled with intense tenderness that was hard to describe. It was completely intoxicating. He caressed her white and porcelain-like face, and with a charmingly deep voice and demonic smile, carrying a touch of playfulness, he said, "Are you satisfied with this king's body?" He had changed the subject. The corner of Su Luo's mouth perked up into a shallow smile of distinct meaning, and lightly pushed away his hands. "What does it have to do with me?" Nangong Liuyun's expression sunk and became slightly dark. His eyes carried a hint of cold-blooded cruelty. "Luo girl, what are you angry about? This king will give you justice, okay?" Simply hypocritical. A taunting and sarcastically cold laugh flashed through Su Luo's eyes. He clearly knew that the opponent had been aiming for her, but persistently pretended nothing had happened right to her face, and tried to mislead her. Did Nangong Liuyun think that she was an idiot? Did he really assume that she could not see that the arrow launched through the window had been shot at her? Did he mistakenly deem her as a good-for-nothing that understood nothing? Who was he protecting? Who was he defending? Did he really believe that she knew nothing? Nangong Liuyun, right now I won't look into this, because I don't have the ability. However, don't you dare go overboard with bullying me. Su Luo did not want to be entangled with this issue. He could protect that person without distinguishing between right and wrong. But he should not assume an adoring manner in front of her to lure her in. Nangong Liuyun's complexion momentarily darkened, and although those eyes contained a callous and stern expression, they could not conceal that passing flash of doting. Why couldn't his Luo girl just be slightly stupid? A little less intelligence would be good. Luo, do you trust me?" They were tender and soft words that, though cruel, carried a hard-to-describe hopefulness. Nangong Liuyun stared at Su Luo. His deep and bottomless eyes contained so many words he wanted to say but couldn't. Nangong Liuyun knew this proud and independent woman in front of his eyes was strong. She was proud and aloof. She clearly distinguished between love and hate, with a non-sentimental cold-bloodedness. She was intelligent, wise, and far-sighted. She had thorough and careful observation skills. Her pair of eyes shone too brightly, as if she could see through to a person's heart. All secrets in front of her would be exposed. Su Luo looked at Nangong Luyan. His pair of bright eyes revealed too much information, almost too much for her to bear. Chapter 150. Secrets revealed too. He treated the Jade Lake Fairy with such an indulgent, doting manner. Did he truly love her, or was there a hidden reason? Everybody had a right to their own secrets. He did not explain and she did not ask. Hidden in Su Luo's eyes was a flash of pride. You want me to believe you? Keep working hard. This lady's trust, how could it be given to just anybody? Hearing that, Nangong Luyan was surprised momentarily. An instant later, he gave a hearty laugh and looked extremely pleased. Good. This king will continue working hard. You just wait and see. After the incident that had previously occurred, his Luo girl did not flatly refuse him. She had given him some leeway. This was excellent, it was very good. After Nangong Luyan and Su Luo had stayed at the hot springs for 10 days, they headed towards the capital. The capital, due to being delayed by the incident with Nangong Luyan, Su Luo still had not returned home. However, Lu Ruohua had already arrived back at the capital. Lu Ruohua's team had been completely annihilated, and she had also lost an arm. This made Lu Qingxiang particularly angry. Lu Ruohua told her father everything. After she mentioned what had happened with His Highness Prince Jin, Lu Qingxiang's face turned ugly. His eyes flickered and were unsettled. Finally, with a pale face he commanded, His Highness Prince Jin is cunning and unfathomable. If he takes action to help, it's out of friendship. When he doesn't take action, then that's to be expected, as that is his normal behavior. Even if you bring the issue right in front of His Highness's face, it would still get the same response. Forget it, go back and sequester yourself at home. From now on, be good and stay at home. Don't go out and cause trouble. When Lu Chongxiang's eyes landed on Lu Ruohua's cut-off arm, his eyes flashed with a cold, cruel look. Losing that arm, how could she still marry into the royal family? This daughter has already been abandoned by him. In the manner, Lu Ruohua, who had lost all future prospects, began a life of being bullied by her sisters. Living through such days was driving her mad. Her originally troublesome heart grew angrier by the day. When Lu Ruohua remembered that the person beside His Highness Prince Jin was Su Luo, it made her missing limb ache with jealousy. Su Luo, if I can't enjoy good days anymore, you had better not dare to think about living well. If I'm going to hell, I'll drag everybody along with me. That same day, Lu Ruohua made an appointment with Su Shi. She thought to inform Su Shi about Su Luo and His Highness Prince Jin's relationship. However, Su Shi had been sent away by her school to learn through experience. Therefore it was Su Wan, the third miss from Su family, that arrived at the restaurant. Lu Ruohua did not beat around the brush, and got straight to the point. Su Wan, has your family Su Luo returned home yet? Su Wan felt this was a strange question. Su Luo clearly was grounded at home, and not allowed to set foot outside. How could she return when she had never left? Just mentioning Su Luo, Su Wan wanted to grind her teeth. Last time, it was clearly Su Luo who injured her. In the end, her own father did not take her side. He had even grounded her along with Su Luo. If not for her past few days of good behavior, it would be hard to say whether or not she would have been grounded for the entire 3 months. Su Wan only coldly smiled. Miss Lu, your words are laughable. My family's fourth little sister behaved improperly and was grounded as punishment by our father. Unless 3 to 5 months have passed, it would be impossible for her to leave home. Where could she have come back from? Lu Ruohua heard what was said and immediately became stumped. She stared blankly at Su Wan. Suddenly, Lu Ruohua's eyes glistened radiantly. She excitedly grabbed Su Wan's hands, then urgently and loudly asked, Is what you have said the truth? Su Luo really was grounded by the great General Su. Lu Ruohua, with her entire body trembling continuously, had stood up in excitement. When Su Wan saw this, she felt that this situation was exceedingly strange, so for a period of time could not reply. Lu Ruohua was so anxious that she had started to stamp her feet. Reply quickly. Was Su Luo really grounded by the great General Su? Is this true? Chapter 151, Secrets Revealed 3. Naturally, it's true. Moreover, it's already been this way for about a month. Su Wan frowned and looked at Lu Ruohua with a baffled expression. She then glanced at Lu Ruohua's cut-off wrist. A look of disgust and contempt flashed through Su Wan's eyes. However, Lu Ruohua suddenly started to laugh uproariously. She laughed so hard that her eyes teared up, and was so excited that she continuously banged on the table. Could this person have gone insane? Su Wan watched Lu Ruohua's crazy appearance with disdain and secretly complained. Lu Ruohua normally gave off a noble, graceful, and very respectable appearance. However, at this meeting, why was there such a huge change in her comportment? It was as if she had fallen from high above the clouds into a pile of mud. Su Luo, you will definitely die. You will definitely die. Lu Ruohua was in the middle of a bout of insanity. She was so hysterical that she started to cry. Su Wan's expression changed. She also wanted Su Luo to quickly encounter some bad luck. If Lu Ruohua could eliminate Su Luo, then Su Wan naturally would endorse her actions with both hands. Therefore Su Wan asked, "What happened? You should start talking." A malicious light radiated from Lu Ruohua's eyes. She stared fixedly at Su Wan and word by word said, "Su Luo was never locked away at your manor to ponder over her mistakes. She went to the Sunset Mountain Range." Not possible. Without even stopping to think, Su Wan vetoed Lu Ruohua's statement by saying, "Su Luo is a natural-born good-for-nothing. How could she possibly go to the Sunset Mountain Range? You must have mistaken her for someone else." "It's true. That person really was Su Luo. I absolutely was not mistaken." Lu Ruohua was so excited that her hands started to wave around. She malevolently glared at Su Wan. "She went there together with His Highness Prince Jin. This I am certain of." "Impossible. She doesn't even know High Highness Prince Jin. How could she go there with him? Moreover, what kind of person is His Highness Prince Jin? How could he be together with Su Luo? You are talking about two completely different stations. Like comparing a celestial immortal from the heavens with a pile of mud on earth. What kind of evil intentions do you harbor? This is simply too absurd." Su Wan completely forgot about her ladylike image, and also started to bang on the table, as she loudly rejected everything. "I know that it's hard for you to believe, but facts are facts. Su Luo went to the Sunset Mountain Range with His Highness Prince Jin. Also hey, do you think she really is a good-for-nothing?" Lu Ruohua smiled sinisterly, full of maliciousness. In the beginning, she had also thought that Su Luo was a good-for-nothing. However, when Lu Ruohua and her companions attempted to kill Su Luo to silence her, she had run away faster than a rabbit during the chase. If even Lu Weiming couldn't catch Su Luo, how could she possibly be a good-for-nothing? That loathsome girl was a tiger pretending to be a pig. She had fooled everyone. But this matter was related to His Highness Prince Jin, and was also connected to the Jade Lakes Ferry. Therefore, Lu Ruohua knew where to draw the line, and did not let out any irresponsible remarks. Su Wan clenched her fist, and anxiously walked around the room in circles. After a long while she stopped. She firmly looked at Lu Ruohua. "You are certain that the person you saw in the Sunset Mountain Range was Su Luo? You are not mistaken?" "Absolutely no mistake. I injured her wrist before and the scars are still there. Furthermore, His Highness Prince Jin clearly called her Luo girl. She herself also admitted that she is Su Luo. Therefore I absolutely cannot be wrong." Lu Ruohua stated firmly and unhesitantly. She was very resolute. "His Highness Prince Jin." Su Wan's eyes were full of maliciousness with murderous intent. That slut of a girl. Even though Su Luo had her engagement broken off, she had still managed to catch the crown prince's attention. Now, she had transferred her attention to having a relationship with His Highness Prince Jin? Good, very good. It was clear that Su Wan needed to give Su Luo a generous gift. Furthermore, your family's fourth miss also offended the Jade Lakes Ferry. You guys should be very careful. If the Jade Lake Palace refuses to let the matter drop, then your family will get destroyed together with all of Su Manor. Chapter 152 Secrets Revealed 4. The Jade Lakes Ferry? Su Luo had even managed to offend that immortal fairy-like person from above? The Jade Lake's fairy and His Highness Prince Jean are the perfect immortal couple. Su Luo inserted herself in between them. If it was you, wouldn't you be mad? Lu Ruohua mixed some truth into the false information to mislead Su Wan. If it was true, then Su Luo will definitely die. That Jade Lake Palace had an existence as high as the imperial family, yet she dared to offend them. Very good. I'm extremely grateful that you gave me this information. If any actions were taken, I will personally inform you. Su Wan lifted up her skirt and hurriedly left. If the information was accurate this time, she will definitely get father to kick Su Luo out of the family. Seeing the back view of Su Wan, who couldn't wait to leave, Lu Ruohua's smile was incomparably malicious. Su Luo, do you like the gift this lady sent you? If the great Su general knew that you snuck out secretly, and also offended the Jade Lake Palace's fairy, well then. Su Wan was also smart. She didn't completely trust Lu Ruohua's words. Therefore, she would personally check out the situation first. Once she had confirmed this information, she would then invite her father over to witness Su Luo's deception. Su Wan and her maid unhurriedly walked towards Su Luo's decrepit courtyard. The courtyard. Lu Luo right now was sitting in the courtyard sunbathing while sewing. Lu Luo was striving to make a new garment for the miss before she returned, so that Su Luo would be pleasantly surprised. Basking in the sunlight while doing needlework, that appearance would seem very leisurely and content. However, only Lu Luo knew how apprehensive her heart was. It had been more than a month since the miss left. Without any news, she didn't even know where the miss had gone. She would sometimes secretly think, perhaps the miss had taken the chance to run away? While the restless Lu Luo was sewing, the bang 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 sounds of knocking on the door resounded. Lu Luo was so startled that the entire thick, long needle pierced into her flesh. The pain almost made her cry out loud. She nervously and uneasily looked at the door that was knocked on until it shook. Her heart was thumping like a deer caught in headlights. She was so anxious that she didn't know what to do. For the past month, nobody had knocked on this door. Even the meals had been delivered through a small hole on the edge of the wall. She had to go over to pick it up. This door hadn't been opened since Su Luo's punishment started. Didn't the great general say the miss would be locked in for 3 months? How could it be so fast? What had happened? If it was discovered that the miss was not in the courtyard, then at that time, this result was too terrible to think about. Lu Luo was so scared that her face became pale. Her body started to tremble. She was so nervous that she almost couldn't breathe. Since she was locked in, this proved that they had to be in here. Then should she open the door? To open or to not open the door? Lu Luo anxiously watched the door that had dust falling down from all the knocking. She hoped that the other party would automatically leave after not getting a response. However, she was disappointed in this respect. Su Wan knocked for a while. The longer this went on without any response from the inside, it made Su Wan, who was initially dubious, now believe Lu Ruohua's news close to 80%. If Su Luo was not guilty, then why would she be afraid to open the door? The corner of Su Wan's mouth turned into a cold smile, and she commanded her servants. Knock on the door, strongly bang on it. Even if it is smashed into pieces, this lady will be responsible for the consequences. Su Wan rarely got the chance to be so aggressive at the manor, but in Su Luo's courtyard, she could always be as unrestrained as she wanted. Lu Luo was worried until she ran around in circles, wishing her miss would literally drop from the sky and appear now. She only heard a huge noise, a boom sound. Then the originally not so stable door loudly toppled over, breaking into pieces. Chapter 153. Secrets Revealed 5. From the doorway, Su Wan's face displayed malicious intent. Su Wan unhurriedly walked in and looked everywhere. She could not find Su Luo's figure, so her already 80% certainty went up to 100%. In regards to Su Luo's recent temperament, she would not be very easy to bully. However, her door had been smashed to pieces, yet she still hadn't come out. The only possibility left was that she really was not here. Su Wan leisurely took the measure of the insistently trembling Lu Luo. With a smile that was not a smile, she asked, "Lu Luo girl, what are you afraid of?" Does this miss look that frightening? No, no. The third miss looks as beautiful as a flower, rarer than any under the heavens. You absolutely are a beauty among the beautiful people. Lu Luo earnestly praised while her heart secretly complained. What was up with the third miss? Why hadn't she left yet? Su Wan was all smiles as she looked at Lu Luo. She coldly smirked and said, "Since it's like this, how come you can't even look at this lady? Could it be that you have done something shameful?" Lu Luo was so scared that her face went pale. She continued to quiver, while she tried to maintain an unyielding tone. Lu Luo released a hollow laugh. The third miss really likes to joke around. This servant, how could this servant have done something shameful? No way, I absolutely have not. Lu Luo clearly was not adept at lying. Her parched tone of voice and body language revealed too much, especially her insufficient voice and lack of confidence. Su Wan was even more pleased. She sneered even more coldly. Really haven't? How about your miss? She has not done anything shameful, has she? Lu Luo secretly bitterly complained in her heart. Could it be that the third miss had come prepared? Her words clearly meant to insinuate something. The fourth miss also has done nothing wrong, Lu Luo stated with a deadpan expression. Her tone was resolute and decisive. In the end, she even solemnly nodded her head. Tell your miss to come out. As sisters, the two of us should spend time together. Perhaps she can coax this lady into a good mood. Then this lady will have mercy and say something good in front of father to release you guys from this courtyard. Su Wan darkly pressured Lu Luo even more. Lu Luo's heart became even more wretched. If her miss could come out, she would have appeared already. Why would she need to watch you, the third miss, strut around? Miss, miss, if you don't come out now, there won't be another chance to come out again. Also, you will never get another chance to see your servant Lu Luo again. Su Wan sinisterly swept Lu Luo a glance. Her footsteps never stopped, and she unhurriedly walked around. She looked in all directions while walking and finally walked into Su Luo's inner room. Lu Luo's heart became extremely nervous. Her body was also trembling uncontrollably. She will definitely die. Maybe today she would be flogged to death. Lu Luo's sweat kept dropping down from her forehead. Her chest and back were soaked through with cold sweat. Su Wan had a boastful and proud smile on her face as her slender white hand pushed open the bedroom door. Lu Luo closed both eyes, as if waiting for death to arrive. Time seemed to have frozen at this moment. It was a huge bedroom. A quick glance showed the room contained a few very old-fashioned and broken pieces of furniture. Simply looking, a person could take everything in at once, but there wasn't a trace of Su Luo's silhouette. Good, very good. That slut Su Luo was definitely not here. At this moment, Su Wan's entire body seemed to relax. She appeared to be as cheerful as the clear and boundless sky. She turned her head, and with a face full of smiles looked at Lu Luo. Her smiling expression was sinister and cold-blooded. As sharp as a sword tip, it pierced at Lu Luo's heart. Ahahaha, good, very good. Su Wan did not say another word. She simply turned and left. Su Luo had dared to secretly sneak out of the family home during her confinement period. This offense was more than sufficient to get her kicked out of Su family. After confirming the facts, Lu Ruohua's words were 80% trustworthy. In that case, added to Su Luo's crime was that she had dared to offend the Jade Lake's fairy. Chuckle Su Luo, Su Luo. After you return, you'll have to suffer and just wait for father to tie you up and bring you to the Jade Lake Palace to apologize for your crimes. Chapter 154 Secrets Revealed 6. Honorable Father. Fourth little sister has disappeared. I have also heard that she has brought shame to our family while outside. We have been unaware of her actions. Su Wan had run enthusiastically towards the great General Su's study. She covered up the excitement in her eyes, and as much as possible tried to employ a tranquil tone. The writing brush in the great General Su's hand stopped. He raised his eyes. His sharp eyes like lightning struck Su Wan, and with a strict tone he said, "What rubbish are you spouting? Honorable Father, what I have said is the truth. That slut Su Luo. Honorable Father, you think that my fourth little sister is still locked in her courtyard as punishment. However, she had already left home a while ago. I have heard rumors from outside that she had even gone so far as to offend the Jade Lake's Fairy. In order to lure Su Zian to personally check on Su Luo, Su Wan without any qualms dropped the bomb regarding the matter of the Jade Lake's Fairy. Su Zian's expression changed. Of course he knew of the Jade Lake's Fairy's background. He understood more than anyone else the influential force behind the Jade Lake's Fairy. Su Luo had actually offended the Jade Lake's Fairy? Where had this rumor come from? However, even if it was baseless, there could still be a reason. If nothing had happened, then why would others spread such a rumor? Su Zian tossed aside the brush and stood up. Is what you have said true? In regards to this matter, even though he had doubts, he had already halfway believed it to be true. Naturally, it's the truth. Honorable father, when this daughter heard the news, I initially also did not believe it. However, in order to secure the safety and reputation of this family, this daughter had gone to fourth younger sister's courtyard. This daughter swears that fourth younger sister was really not there. Su Wan wanted to immediately make this vow. If Su Wan managed to persuade Su Zian to go look, this will force him to personally witness that Su Luo was not there. Then, at that time, even if Su Luo had not offended the Jade Lake's Fairy, the crime of escaping her punishment would already have been placed on her body. Su Zian's calm manner changed slightly. He thought about it and solemnly said, "Since it's already this way, then let's go take a look." Because this may involve the Jade Lake Palace, Su Zian's heart was also somewhat worried. The Jade Lake Palace in this empire existed as a superpower, simply due to their ancestral elder. This ancestral elder, who had been in closed-door cultivation for many years, was a 10th-ranked expert. You could count the number of 10th-ranked experts in the entire world on one hand. It was said that he was Eastern Ling Empire's C-stabilizing divine needle. With him present, there was no way to wipe out the Eastern Ling Empire. With such a status, who wouldn't fear and revere the Jade Lake Palace? Under such conditions, who would dare to offend the Jade Lake Palace? Who would dare to offend the Jade Lake Palace's favorite child, the Jade Lake's Fairy? Wouldn't it be like courting death? If Su Luo really had dared to offend the Jade Lake's Fairy, then Su Zian's first action would be to tie up Su Luo and personally escort her to the Jade Lake Palace. He would present her to the other party, allowing the Jade Lake Palace to handle the punishment. Not only would he not feel sad, he would even applaud and praise the punishment. Su Zian quickly trotted toward Su Luo's courtyard. Following behind him, Su Wan's heart jumped with excitement. Such enthusiasm in her eyes could not be covered up. "Father, let's go in. Fourth younger sister really is not in there." When she saw Su Zian indeterminately standing outside the door, Su Wan tried to persuade him with these words. Su Zian lifted up his robe. His footstep was steady as he entered the courtyard without any announcement. His expression was solemn, respectable, coldly strict, and contained an unknown gloominess. Lu Luo nervously came out to welcome them. When she saw Su Zian, she hurriedly kneeled down to pay her respects to the great General Su. Su Zian threw a quick, cold glance at the kneeling Lu Luo. With both hands behind his back, he had an arrogant appearance. "Where is the fourth miss? Is she still in the room?" Lu Luo trembled with fear, but did not dare to raise her head. Her voice was thin and feeble like a mosquito. Present. The miss is in her room." Su Wan sneered out loud. "Death is at hand, and yet you still dare to quibble. Fourth younger sister is clearly not in her room. Such a lowly girl like you dares to speak so casually. You actually don't want to live?" Chapter 155. Secrets Revealed 7. Lu Luo's entire body was trembling, but she still firmly insisted. "The miss really is in her room. This is the truth. The miss these days never steps foot outside of the door. She had been copying the sacred scriptures inside her room as blessing prayers for Lord Su. How could the third miss slander the fourth miss in such a manner?" Sneer. Su Wan let out a sneer. She could not be bothered to waste her breath with this girl's nonsense. "Honorable father, whether the fourth younger sister is present or not, why should we believe the words of a servant girl? This is what is called don't believe what people tell you until you see it for yourself. If we go in and have a look, then wouldn't the whole truth be revealed?" While speaking, Su Wan pushed open Su Luo's bedroom door. At this time, Lu Luo lifted her eyes. She had a having been wronged expression, crying with a tone of complaining. The third miss. It is reasonable to say that this servant cannot say anything against you. However, this servant is still so bold as to ask this sentence on behalf of the fourth Mississippi. The third miss, do you harbor any ill intentions? What did you, a loathsome servant girl, say? Dare so far as to say this to a master of the house? Don't want to live right? Su Wan thought this was inconceivable. The always cowering Lu Luo dared to oppose her in front of her face, as if she was striking the drums and calling for a challenge. The third miss, just a while ago, you broke and entered, destroying the door to this courtyard. Now you also brought Lord Su here full of rage. What is your plan? What kind of offense did the fourth miss commit against you that you would treat her like this? Lu Luo's red-rimmed eyes had teardrops rolling out. You, a mere servant girl, dares to speak such nonsense. With victory in her grasp, she was being delayed by this servant girl's excuses. Su Wan's eyes were like sharp swords that pierced toward Lu Luo. She made a firm decision. Once she had taken care of Su Luo afterwards, she would definitely not let this servant girl live. Ha ha! Could it be that this servant girl actually thought by stalling for time Su Luo would actually come back? Dream on. The third miss, the fourth miss is already so pitiful. Why would you maliciously slander her? How would such unwanted slander benefit you? Please let go of the fourth miss, alright? Lu Luo raised her eyes full of tears but firmly and determinedly stared at Su Wan. As expected, the servant girl taught by the fourth younger sister is also rude, vulgar and unreasonable. If it was in the past, Su Wan naturally would order people to beat Lu Luo to death with a wooden stick. However, because Su Zian was present, she could not reveal her wicked nature. Therefore she only sneered, saying this lady maliciously slandered her master? Ha ha, Lu Luo servant girl. If your miss really is inside, then this lady will kowtow to her and pour her some tea as apology. Barely finished speaking, her hand already touched the door to the inner bedroom. The door was heavily pushed open. Su Wan, with her face full of confidence, entered behind Su Zian. Her face was brimming with a victorious, smiling expression, because after today's event, the great general's manor Su Luo would already have ceased to exist here. This person would become history. However, when she clearly saw the situation within the room, the glorious smiling expression on Su Wan's mouth immediately froze. It was so stiff that she almost pulled a muscle. She looked as if seeing a ghost at Su Luo, who sat at the desk with an upright posture, her hands holding a brush, conscientiously writing. She heard an exploding sound in her mind, and then it became blank. Really saw a ghost? How could this be possible? Su Luo her, how could she be here? Furthermore, like Lu Luo said, she sat upright in front of her desk, brush by brush earnestly correctly copying the sacred scriptures. A huge pile of paper was placed by the side of her desk. Those fine and neat words at a glance could tell took a lot of effort. Clearly a quarter of an hour before Su Luo was not here. Su Wan immediately became dumbfounded. She felt that she was as stupid as a pig. She was also the stupidest and most foolish of all pigs. Chapter 156, Secrets Revealed. 8. Su Luo lifted her eyes up and looked at them. She then put down her brush and got up. Su Zian's complexion in a split second became unsightly. His cold gaze swept past Su Wan in a quick glance. He turned his head toward Su Luo, frowned, and then opened his mouth to speak. These last few days you have remained here, never leaving once? Su Luo's expression was composed. Without any indignation or heat, she faced her father, and with a rather puzzled expression said, Daddy, wasn't it you who commanded that this daughter was forbidden to go out? How could this daughter go anywhere? Such a simple sentence, but it caused Su Zian to choke until his complexion changed. This daughter's words were ordinary, but why did they feel as sharp as a sword? Moreover, the sentence struck at the most crucial points, cutting people off until they had nothing left to say. Su Zian felt somewhat awkward. Right now Su Wan had landed in a quandary. Privately in Su Wan's heart, she had believed Lu Ruohua because Lu Ruohua had no reason to deceive her. Furthermore, Lu Ruohua previously had not known that Su Luo had escaped from her forced confinement. Therefore, Lu Ruohua's words had a certain amount of authenticity. However, in actuality, Su Wan had no choice but to suspect that the reason she couldn't find Su Luo in her courtyard before was because Su Luo and Lu Ruohua had arranged to set her up. They had made her jump into a trap. Currently, Su Wan's expression fluctuated indeterminately. It was suddenly bright then dark for a while. It was as if she was unable to make a firm resolution on her feelings. Su Zian originally had thought that this daughter would say something and save him from embarrassment. However, he had never thought that Su Wan would be so useless. He lightly coughed and deliberately frowned. While staring at Su Luo, he said, "You truly have never left this place?" These past days, daughter has continuously copied the sacred scriptures. I have spent countless hours meticulously copying every page. Granted, even if I could go out, this daughter wouldn't have the time to. Su Luo said this very innocently. Her dark pair of eyes were like limpid watery mist. She looked at her cheap old man, with an expression of having been wronged. Sure enough, Su Zian was again deceived by such behavior. His expression eased, and he asked another question. "What about that Jade Lakes fairy? You really have never offended her?" Su Luo feigned innocence and asked, "The Jade Lakes fairy? Did she come to the capital? Such a pity. All along, this daughter had been locked up in her courtyard, couldn't even take a single step outside. Otherwise, I could have secretly run over catch a glimpse of her. I heard that the Jade Lakes fairy is very beautiful." Cough, cough, cough. Su Zian felt that his face had started to turn red. Su Luo obviously had never even seen the Jade Lakes fairy. How could she offend someone she had never seen? Besides, the Jade Lakes fairy was at Sinking Sunset Peak, which was hundreds and thousands of kilometers away from here. How could Su Luo in such a short time have run over to see the Jade Lakes fairy, and then even offend her? Simply absurd. That huge pile of sacred scriptures, without a month of two of labor, how could it have been transcribed? Look at this girl. She had even lost some weight. His thinking had been too muddled. He had actually one-sidedly believed only Su Wan's words, and in a rage had run over to interrogate Su Luo. Once he recalled this, Su Zian felt an unprecedented shame towards Su Luo. In contrast, he felt an unprecedented disgust in regards to Su Wan. This Su Wan, recently she had become more and more outrageous. It seemed that letting her out of her courtyard had been the wrong decision. That being so, Su Zian just wanted to let this spectacle pass and pretend as if it had never happened. However, how could Su Wan let Su Luo go? Father, where there's smoke, there's fire. This daughter is telling the truth. This news was not relayed to this daughter by a stranger, but by Prime Minister Lu's family's third Miss Lu Ruohua. From her own mouth, this daughter heard that Lu Ruohua came across fourth younger sister at the Sunset Mountain Range. Chapter 157. Secrets Revealed 9. After much deliberation, Su Wan eventually decided to trust Lu Ruohua. She firmly believed that Su Luo was just lucky. She must have came back during the short time when Su Wan went looking for Su Zian. Then she pretended that she had been in the room, copying the sacred sculptures. The corner of Su Luo's mouth rose with ice-cold murderous intent. "Lu Ruohua, apparently you had not died? Once you returned to the capital you actually dared to gossip? It seems that last time I didn't kill you really let you off cheaply." Right now Su Zian's trust already started to lean towards Su Luo. He glared at Su Wan and furiously with a cold, severe tone said, "Preposterous. Other people may not know, but how could you not know about your little sister's broken body? Yet this is the type of lie you dare to even speak. It seems like the servant girl's words were right. You deliberately directed this against your little fourth sister." Su Luo appeared as if having been wronged. Both eyes were hazed over with a watery mist, seemingly lovely and pitiful. "Third older sister, why are you acting this way against me? This way, how would it benefit you? If you were to say I had offended the Jade Lakes fairy, then go invite the Jade Lakes fairy over. You could then ask her if I Su Luo did anything to offend her. No, you should actually ask the Jade Lakes fairy if she has ever even seen me, Su Luo." Su Luo's open and candid appearance faced her opposition. That is because Su Luo understands, based on Su Wan's status, how could she be capable of inviting the Jade Lake's fairy to come? Su Wan was so furious that her eyes almost rolled out. Is the Jade Lake's fairy someone you want to see can see? Who knows where she is right now? Su Luo with a deadpan tone smoothly added, since the Jade Lake's fairy is not someone that we are able to see, first not mentioning me being locked in, even considering just my status and aptitude, where could I have seen her? And how could I have offended her? Su Wan was trapped by her own words, and was interrogated by Su Luo, until even 100 mouths would not be able to dispute what had been said. Yes, since the Jade Lake's fairy was not someone who could merely be seen on a whim, then based on Su Luo's qualifications and status, how could she even see the Jade Lake's fairy? And then how could she have offended her? Su Xian's mind was increasingly at ease and believed that Su Luo was innocent. He also felt that Su Wan was causing trouble without reason. Fortunately, Su Wan's mind was not stupid. She rapidly recalled what Lu Ruohua said. In the end, at this time, she would not needlessly conceal anything. She coldly smiled. Naturally, you would not see her. But with His Highness Prince Jin present, then naturally you would have seen the Jade Lake's fairy. How did this even get linked with His Highness Prince Jin? Su Xian's brows knotted. First it was the Jade Lake's fairy. Now it was His Highness Prince Jin. These people were all huge Buddha-like figures, and his tiny little general's manner simply could not afford to offend any of them. Daddy, you ask her. You ask her if she went to the Sunset Mountain Range with His Highness Prince Jin? Humph, Su Luo, don't even think about denying. Lu Ruohua actually saw everything. Su Xian's expression fluctuated, and he bewilderedly looked at Su Luo. Even if it was hard to believe, however. If it was real. The corner of Su Luo's mouth lifted into a faint smile. Her eyes were as clear and peaceful as the wind. His Highness Prince Jin? Ha ha, third elder sister, honorable father. What kind of person is His Highness Prince Jin? He is an immortal being from the 9th layer of heavens, incomparably noble. One glance of him from the common people makes them feel as if they had committed blasphemy. Do you guys really think that he would fancy me, a good-for-nothing idiot? Even though what Su Luo said were the facts. However, Su Wan still firmly refuted. Probably because His Highness Prince Jin suddenly was in a good mood. Okay, His Highness Prince Jin was in a good mood. Let's assume that was the case. In that case, may I ask, how could I have made a trip from here to Sunset Mountain Range and back in a period of only 1 month? Chapter 158. Secrets Revealed 10. Now, even Su Wan had difficulty justifying her words. After a long while, she finally thought of something to say. His Highness Prince Jin has a dragon-scaled horse. A dragon-scaled horse can travel 500 kilometers in a day. To make a round trip within 10 days would be a cinch. Since third older sister mentioned the dragon-scaled horse, Su Luo coldly smiled. Her eyes unblinkingly stared at Su Xian. Then, honorable father, you have also heard of the dragon-scaled horse. Do you think such a magical beast as the dragon-scaled horse, besides His Highness Prince Jin, would allow others to ride in it? I heard that the Crown Prince had tried to ride in the dragon-scaled horse carriage before, and was thrown out. He almost suffered a serious mishap. Do you feel that your own daughter would have the ability to ride in the dragon-scaled horse carriage? Is my station more respectable than the Crown Prince's? Is my martial arts higher than the Crown Prince's? Or is it something else? Su Luo's words were reasonable and woven seamlessly together, making them impossible to refute. Not a single strand of fault could be found, unless the Jade Lake's fairy appeared in front of her to expose her lies. Otherwise, who would believe that she, Su Luo, was together with His Highness Prince Jin, and had also rode in the same dragon-scaled horse carriage? These things were unthinkable, and nobody dared to even imagine it. Even the Crown Prince and the Jade Lake's fairy weren't able to touch the dragon-scaled horse carriage. How would it let Su Luo ride in it? Since the conjecture that she rode the dragon-scaled horse could not have happened, then the possibility that Su Luo went to Sunset Mountain Range would naturally be false too. In that case, from this, it could be seen that the one who lied was Su Wan, not Su Luo. After Su Xian contemplated this information, his eyes fiercely and strictly glared at Su Wan. He coldly left a sentence. Go back to your courtyard and carefully reflect. Save your effort of coming out all day to stir up trouble, and create something from nothing. Before he finished speaking, the great General Su Zian tossed his sleeves, turned and resolutely left. He completely believed Su Luo's words, and deduced her to be innocent. He was also convinced that Su Wan had tried to stir up trouble. Su Wan was so furious that her face became red. Her appearance was dark and dejected. Her slim finger pointed at Su Luo. With a twisted and sinister expression she said, I really don't know, and also can't imagine how you made the round trip from home to Sunset Mountain Range. However, I believe what Lu Ruohua told me. Finished speaking, she turned and left. She would definitely find the evidence to prove that Su Luo's words were all lies. However, Su Luo only lazily leaned on the door frame, both hands crossed over her chest. Her face was glowing and spirited. The corner of her mouth lifted in a cold smile that was not quite a smile. Third older sister, you are indeed forgetful. Just like this you think you can leave? The Su Luo right now was already not the timid and delicate-mannered one that had faced Su Zian. The her right now seemed very careless and indifferent. Her words and actions had the manner of one who had victory within their grasp. Not arrogant, or impatient and neither strict nor slow. Su Wan paused. She turned around and glared at Su Luo, sneeringly said, What? Want your third older sister to stay and accompany you for dinner? She had already prepared to let Su Luo go this time. How could Su Luo still be dissatisfied? That won't be necessary. It's merely that I vaguely heard before what third older sister had said. If I, Su Luo, was here, then she would kneel and pour me some water for tea, right? Su Luo pretended to pick at her ears. Her pair of beautiful eyebrows rose slightly. A taunting smile with a cynical intent appeared. Food perhaps could be eaten indiscriminately, but words could not be spoken irresponsibly. You should be responsible for the words that were spoken. However, Su Wan merely sneered. You heard wrong. Such a thing never happened. Finished speaking, she lifted her skirt and hurriedly walked away, afraid that should she be too slow, then she would be grabbed by Su Luo and forced to kneel and pour tea for her in apology. Su Luo saw Su Wan's the rushing rear view, trying to escape, and her mouth lifted in a shallow grim laugh. Su Wan, you thought that this gate was so easy to pass through? You think that I, Su Luo, would be so easy to bully? Chapter 159. The Final Craziness. 1. Su Wan angrily left. She sat in her room and frowned for half a day. Outside her door stood her two personal maids. One was Xia Qing, the other was Dong Shui. Both of them had their heads lowered, occasionally looking at each other in dismay. Neither dared to take a step forward to trouble the Mississippi. Clearly, both of them knew that whoever took the first step forward to soothe the miss would become cannon fodder for the third Miss's rage. They knew Su Wan's temper better than anyone else. Su Wan suddenly stood up. She impatiently and furiously paced around her room. She clenched her fist and discovered that no matter what, she couldn't swallow being humiliated in such a way. Why was she the one who always got scolded and cursed at? Last time, Su Luo had beaten her to such extent, yet father merely said one scolding sentence that was light as a feather. Ultimately, Su Luo was only locked in her courtyard to reflect, and because of her own bad luck, Su Wan received the same punishment. This time was also the same. Clearly, Su Luo had snubbed the family and left home. Su Luo freely, and played unfettered around for about a month outside. Once Su Luo returned home, instead of being reproached, father actually blamed her instead? Since when did Su Luo start to strive for things, and be a step ahead of her? This was absolutely impossible. She must investigate this matter regarding Su Luo thoroughly. She must expel her from the family, or else afterwards, how could she have any status in this manner? With a flash of insight, Su Wan stood up and charged out, full of rage. At this moment, the servant Lame came in, carrying a hot bowl of lotus seed soup. She had originally thought to use it to ease Su Wan's temper. However, by chance when she entered, Su Wan had rushed outside without any warning. Both people coincidentally collided together. Su Wan was scalded by the soup and started to shriek. She harshly slapped La Mei in the face, making the servant spin around. Even such a slut like you dares to bully me. I'm going to die from anger. Su Wan, panting with rage, kicked her. Afterwards, without any hesitation, she turned around and left. In front of these servants, Su Wan never bothered to cover up her spoiled, rude and unreasonable manner. Only in front of Su Zian, that delicate, kind-hearted, well-behaved and benevolent Su Wan would appear. This time, Su Wan directly went to Prime Minister Lu's manor to look for Lu Ruohua. Lu Ruohua was in a very good mood today, because by chance, she had discovered that Su Luo had left her home in secret, and afterwards, she had ingeniously borrowed Su Wan to get rid of Su Luo. She had incited both sisters to start an internal strife, while she could watch safely from a distance, and then reap the rewards when both sides became exhausted. She was extremely satisfied with herself. Therefore, the corners of her mouth smiled radiantly non-stop, without breaking off for an entire day. However, her expression of smiling from ear to ear on her face shocked all the servants. This was because, when Lu Ruohua had returned to the Prime Minister's manor, afterwards, she would rage or break things daily. The only thing she never did was to smile. Only when Lu Ruohua saw Su Wan did her fine, long eyebrows rise slightly. What kind of expression was on Su Wan's face? Could it be that she didn't succeed? Su Wan made the prompt decision to strike first and asked, "Did you just play me?" Lu Ruohua set down the half-eaten pastry, her eyes staring seriously. "What's the matter? Didn't you go home to tattletale on Su Luo?" With Su Wan's appearance of panting with rage, Lu Ruohua's heart had a slightly bad premonition. Sure enough, Su Wan angrily sat down. She lifted up the teacup and took a drink of green tea. She swallowed it in one mouthful and heavily slammed it onto the table. She dropped her entire body onto a purple lounger, with her head lifted to the sky. Her gaze blazingly stared at Lu Ruohua. With a tone as frosty as ice, she asked, "You better tell me the truth. Did Su Luo really go to Sunset Mountain Range?" "How could I lie to you about this? It's absolutely true." Without even having to think, Lu Ruohua decisively and firmly stated, "Swear it on your life." Su Wan's eyes were serious and cautious, unblinkingly staring at Lu Ruohua. She gave off an imposing and forceful manner. Chapter 160, The Final Craziness 2. "Okay then, I swear on my life. At the Sunset Mountain Range, I, Lu Ruohua, indeed really did see Su Luo together with His Highness Prince Jin. This is absolutely true. If there is a threat of falsehood, I shall suffer heaven's thunderous mandates and be split by lightning." Lu Ruohua's expression was steadfast. Her right hand was raised as she made the vow. Her eyes were full of sincerity. Su Wan had originally believed in Lu Ruohua. Now, she was completely convinced. Her expression started to ease up, and she let out a heavy sigh. However, Sunset Mountain Range is separated by thousands of mountains and many lakes from here. How did Su Luo come back within such a short period? What? Su Luo really came back? Lu Ruohua's pair of eyes widened in disbelief. Yes, just now when I went to find her, she was there. Su Wan didn't want to mention the awkward situation she had landed herself in today because of this. She didn't want to be ridiculed again. She really came back. Lu Ruohua exclaimed in admiration, in a kind of as expected manner. Sure enough, her premonition was not wrong. At that time when they were chasing after Su Luo trying to kill her, they didn't succeed. Then the time after that, she was also unlikely to be so easily killed off. At the Sunset Mountain Range, the last time she saw Su Luo was when her team was chasing after her to kill her. At that time, because of the sudden appearance of the divine dragon that had started to chase after them to kill them, they had to disperse and run away in all directions. And afterwards, it was the Jade Lake Fairy's personal maidservant who found her. They wanted her to lead them to where they could find Su Luo. Even though that maid did not say anything, through a woman's intuition, Lu Ruohua clearly felt her murderous intent towards Su Luo. It was also because of this that she led the others to find Su Luo without any objections. She originally thought that Su Luo would be killed by those people. Now it appeared that Su Luo's ability to live was truly strong. She even came back with all the hairs on her tail in place. Su Wan frowned. Give it some thought. How did Su Luo so quickly make this round trip? Was it because of His Highness Prince Jin's dragon-scaled horse? Lu Ruohua somewhat disbelievingly speculated. Absolutely impossible. Su Wan rejected it completely. It is said that the dragon-scaled horse wouldn't even recognize the Jade Lake's fairy. How could it possibly acknowledge Su Luo? You should know, she doesn't even have the strength of a first-ranked martial artist. She is just a good-for-nothing. Lu Ruohua's mouth formed a mocking smile. You guys were all deceived by Su Luo. Whether she really is a good-for-nothing with zero innate talent or not, I don't know. However, Su Luo's fighting skills were fast, nimble and agile. Absolutely not to be trifled with. At that time, Su Luo even dodged Lu Weiming's assassin skills. Do you feel that she really is a good-for-nothing? After some thought, Lu Ruohua finally told Su Wan the secret she had uncovered. What did you just say? Su Luo was able to dodge Lu Weiming when he attacked with his assassin skills? Lu Weiming at that time had the strength level of a 3rd or 4th ranked martial artist. Even when he used all his strength, Su Luo was still able to avoid it. How could this be possible? Only supposing this conjecture held water. Suddenly, Su Wan recalled that day at the Lotus Pond when she was mysteriously kicked. That day, that kick had sent her into the water, and even brought Su Xian too. Finally, there was also a fire that drew the crown prince and a group of people over. This was clearly man-made. Things that were closely linked and joined seamlessly together. This was definitely man-made. Otherwise, no matter how coincidental it seemed, it still could not have occurred together in so timely a manner. Could it be? All this was planned and executed by Su Luo? If Su Luo really was hiding her strength, then it was possible that she had really done it. It couldn't be avoided that with this sentence, Miss Su Wan actually came upon the truth. That crisp, efficient Buddha Mountain shadowless kick was sent by Su Luo, moreover. She didn't do it just once. Lu Luo wrinkled her small face which had a helpless expression on it. However, she had no means to keep the miss at home. Since awakening from the coma that time, it seemed as if the miss had become another person. She had become more lively and open-minded, full of self-confidence. Furthermore, she had become more decisive with her own ideas. Only this was good. In the past, they were always bullied by others. Now they had the ability to bully right back. Su Luo narrowed her eyes, concentrating on, and recalling repeatedly, that cold arrow launched towards her on that day. Was it you, the Jade Lake's fairy? Su Luo's lips arced into a sneer. A complex light appeared in her eyes. These were proof that she was excited, the elation of having found a target, repeatedly chasing after to kill her. This hatred, Su Luo would never forget for a lifetime. If there appeared an auspicious time, she would inevitably return it 100-fold. Su Luo closed her eyes. Her spirit had already gone into her space. Recently, Su Luo found that her space had another fantastic property. This discovery simply made her wild with joy. Before, when she was sleeping, her spirit would automatically enter her space to practice martial arts. She attempted to practice the volume of the great dimensional imprint that the venerable divine dragon had tossed to her. Even though it had only been 7 short days, the results, however, were very pleasing. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.